Chapter 600, Assassination in the Late Night, 1. Dragon King from Nifengyu is a budding realm expert and the most famous alchemist master and blacksmith master in Yongchang City currently. He killed Su Fa, Tong Xiuping, Lin Xingjian and the other 2 disciples who were all ranked in the top 20 with a single strike. How insane is that? You guys might not know about this. The spiritual tea session in the afternoon was insane. Not only did the Dragon King kill 5 top 20 disciples in a single strike, but there was also nothing left remaining of the 5 of them. My guess is that even if Ao Shuwen had been in the arena, he would likely not have been a match for the insanely strong Dragon King. He's too demon-like. Who would have expected the Dragon King to be so incredibly talented? Even the 5 elders are treating him as their equal. Today's Dahong Immortals sect was livelier than before. The death of 5 top 20 disciples shocked everyone. They were talking about 5 of them. Every top 20 supreme talent was an elite genius of Dahong Immortals sect and the subject of additional grooming. Yet, they were killed by the Dragon King today. Moreover, not even their corpses were left behind. While the people were shocked, they also felt terrified. The Dragon King was too bloodthirsty. The powerful Dragon King made disciples from the entire Immortals sect feel respect and fear. Dong! 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 Disciple of Nifengyu, Wang Xian, has been promoted to the 18th elder of Dahong Immortals sect. Dong! 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 Disciple of Nifengyu, Wang Xian, has been promoted to the 18th elder of Dahong Immortals sect. At this moment, the bell rang from the main peak. The bell rang 9 times and the message was repeated 3 times. The sound of the bell and the announcement reverberated throughout Dahong Immortals sect. Everyone was shocked by it. Elder? The Dragon King has been conferred as an elder? Oh gosh! This is unbelievable. Our Dahong Immortals sect only has 17 elders and each of them possess immense authority. The Dragon King has now become an elder. SSS. The rise of the Dragon King can't be stopped. Even when he killed 5 supreme talents, he still wasn't affected. The youngest elder of Dahong Immortals sect in history. The disciples were astonished while the ringing of the bell and the announcement resounded in their ears. Even the attendants of Dahong Immortals sect were astonished. I had not expected this to be announced in such a grand manner. Just as Wang Xian arrived at Nifengyu, he heard the bell ring. A nonchalant smile appeared on his face. He didn't really care how precious the title of elder was in Dahong Immortals sect. At Nifengyu, Wang Xian greeted Mentor Yu before returning to Yongchang City. So what if you're an elder now? You have offended too many people and all the elixir pill shops and spiritual equipment shops in Dahong Immortals sect. Those who encroach on their interests will suffer a terrible death. Even an elder wouldn't be an exception. At this very moment, Ao Shuwen took off from Tileng and flew towards Yongchang City. Yongchang City was huge and was where all the families of the 3 immortal sects gathered. Those who could establish powerful families were undoubtedly experts from the 3 immortal sects. The entire Yongchang City had been largely occupied by families affiliated with immortal sects. In Yongchang City, 2 kinds of business were the most lucrative. Refining elixir pills and spiritual equipment. Elixir pill shops and weapon shops of various sizes reached a total of 4,000 to 5,000 and they were all controlled by various huge families. Elixir pills and spiritual equipment could be considered as the core of the interests for the entire Yongchang City. Yet, the market for elixir pills and spiritual equipment in Yongchang City had undergone huge changes over the last few days. The appearance of that master in the small shop within Yongchang City had a huge impact on the elixir pills and spiritual equipment market in Yongchang City. This had undoubtedly affected the interests of various powerful families. Ao Shuwen flew to Yongchang City and descended into a huge mansion. He looked to the grand hall and a smirk appeared on his face. At this very moment, over 30 people had gathered in the grand hall. Every single one of them was famous throughout Yongchang City. Within the 3 immortal sects, all of them were part of the middle and higher management. Young Master Ao, please take a seat. Upon seeing the arrival of Ao Shuwen, an old man spoke to him plainly. Ao Shuwen nodded his head and sat towards the back. Now that everyone is here. Regarding that small shop, has everyone made the necessary preparations? After approximately 20 minutes, Master Xuanhua, who was sitting at the very front, pulled a long face and spoke to the group of people within the room. Our Yuan family has prepared the spirit arrays. Our Yu family is also ready. There will definitely be a heavy downpour tonight. Two old men answered. This is some information relating to the master of that small shop. Ao Shuwen looked across the crowd without any emotions as he threw the information onto the table beside each old man. Ha! An elder from Dahong Immortal Sect? Old Liang, he's the same as you. An elder of Dahong Immortal Sect. So what if he is an elder? TSK. As long as we kill him without leaving a trace, it won't matter. There won't be an issue as long as we do not anger our immortal sect leader. As long as he's not an immortal, it won't matter if we allied together and kill him. We will take action tonight. Budding realm expert. Unparalleled in refining elixir pills and equipment. He's just a brat who doesn't know the rules. An old man saw the information on the table but didn't show any changes in emotions. The interests within Yongchang City were controlled by various huge families, and these huge families formed the higher management of the three immortal sects. Their relationships were complicated. If there were only 3 to 4 families, they might not dare to assassinate the elders of Dahong Immortal Sect. However, it wouldn't be the same if there were so many families participating this time. With so many families, they might not be able to mask the truth from the entire world. However, hiding the truth from Yongchang City was still very much achievable. Just sit back and wait for your death, Dragon King. Seeing the expressions of the group before him, Ao Shuwen's eyes beamed with ruthlessness. Whoosh! The sky was darkening gradually. At night, a heavy downpour fell in the city. The heavy downpour shrouded half of Yongchang City, prompting various shops to close for business at an earlier time. Wang Xian remained in the shop and was refining spiritual equipment rapidly. While immersed in the state of refining, he was incredibly fast. In less than 10 minutes, he would complete his refining of a piece of spiritual equipment. The dark had fallen silently, but Wang Xian wasn't getting ready to rest. Hee. Now that the spirit arrays have sealed this place, let's take action. At this moment outside the ship, a group of people hovered in the sky. Raindrops avoided their bodies instinctively. An old man looked down at a structure and revealed a faint smile. A budding realm expert. With our strength, he will be easily killed. It's a shame that a master that is unparalleled in refining elixir pills and equipment will fall here today. An old man revealed a mocking smile as he extended out his hands. He deserves death for undercutting our Saint Forge workshop and disrupting the interests of everyone. Master Xuanhua looked below him and a tinge of hatred flashed in his eyes. TSK. After your death, I'm going to teach those families that withdrew from us a good lesson. Huge pieces of ominous clouds gathered in the sky. They spread over 100 meters with sword glows zapping across. Chapter 601, Assassination in the Late Night 2. Sword Cloud. Extremely daunting sword cloud. In the void, the old men stared at the place below them with icy cold eyes while daunting water energy surged around them. Those middle-aged men and old men who cultivated inferno and metal energy did not strike. All they did was watch by the side, doing nothing. As a total of 8 sword clouds were formed, each one of them was hundreds of meters in size. 8 budding realm experts played the sword clouds at the same time. Including those budding realm experts who did not strike, they had about 15 people in total. With so many supreme class experts killing a master who was unparalleled in refining elixir pills and equipment, it was a piece of cake despite the other party also being a budding realm expert. Kill! 8 elders let out a cold bellow in the sky. Within the sword clouds, longswords sprouted out all of a sudden. The longswords gave out a chilly aura in the rain. Instantly, thousands of razor-sharp swords darted out towards the shop below for a kill. Her. Oh no. At this time, Wang Xian, who was refining equipment in the room, had a drastic change in his expression. With an arm swing, he put all the surrounding materials into his space ring. What a daunting killing aura! His expression was altered slightly. With a thought, a shield appeared in his hand. On the shield was water current flowing at a rapid speed. At the same time, another long sword showed up in Wang Xian's hand. Sword Alps. He waved his arm and set up walls of sword Alps around him. At the same time, Wang Xian raised the shield in his hand. Own! The shield in his hand ballooned, wrapping him completely with water energy. Boom! At this time, Wang Xian sensed a round of terrifying attacks charging in his direction. It came from all sides and he had nowhere to hide. Who dares to strike in Yongchang City? Wang Xian was slightly aghast as he fixed his eyes on the sky with a stern look. Whoosh! At this time, the entire rooftop was torn apart as frightful water swords were darting at him. The dense water swords came one after another, as though they were endless. Wang Xian saw the sword clouds that contained domineering energy in the sky were releasing the water swords. There's more than one. Cold radiance was found in Wang Xian's eyes as the water energy around him intensified. Below that stream of water energy, a layer of mustard energy was also encircling it. Boom boom. Destructive attacks kept raining down on Wang Xian. The incessant water swords lasted for 10 seconds. The entire shop was completely gone under such a daunting rain of swords while a pit that was a dozen meters deep appeared in the ground. Alright, we'll need to restore this place before dawn. An elder withdrew his sword cloud and spoke impassively while taking a brief glance below. This stupid fellow is a total waste of our time, another elder commented coldly at the side. Master Xuanhua and Master Qingming revealed a smile. Going against all the elixir pills shops and blacksmith shops in Yongchang City will never come to a good ending. The crowd looked down and they were almost certain that this wicked master who was unparalleled in refining elixir pills and equipment had totally vanished from Yongchang. They exchanged glances with one another, ready to settle the remaining matters. Let's go, an elder said without any emotions as though killing a person here was nothing but a trivial matter to him. I'll get my men to withdraw the array. Another old man's voice was heard. Bo! However, at this time, the rain in the sky was getting heavier. But the strange thing was, not only did the rain not fall on the ground, but it was gathering in the sky. It was as though the rain was controlled by some dominating force in the surroundings. What's going on? The 15 budding realm experts sensed the eerie change of the surroundings and revealed a look of surprise. He's not dead. An old man sensed something moving below as a golden radiance shot out from his eyes. Phew! Wang Xian let out a deep breath while the level 11 shield in his hands was full of cracks. The attacks from 8 budding realm experts had almost injured him. Who are you people? Why did you try to kill me? Wang Xian swept his gaze across everyone and eventually stopped on Xuanhua and Qingming. Seeing them made him realize what was going on. He looks familiar. When Master Xuanhua and Master Qingming saw Wang Xian, they found him to be very familiar. Isn't he? Master Qingming suddenly had a flash of memory. He recalled the young man who once showed up in his Saint Forge workshop, applying to be an alchemist in their shop. How is this possible? The two of them exchanged eye contact as they found disbelief in each other's eyes. The lad, which they had rejected back then, was actually an alchemy master unparalleled in refining elixir pills and equipment. This is a fucking joke. Oh? You're not dead? It looks like we have to go for one more round. The surrounding experts ignored Wang Xian's questions as they raised their eyebrows and spoke without any emotions. 15 budding realm experts against one was simply overkill. Since you guys refuse to tell me, then go to hell. Wang Xian revealed frantic murderous intent in his eyes. This was the first time in Yongchang world that he felt such rage. Upon hearing his words, the group of 15 people grinned disdainfully. Bobo. Yet, they were surprised to find out that the rainwater gathered in the center had ballooned to 10 meters in size at this instant. Subsequently, the 10-meter water space spread out, enveloping a radius of 5 kilometers at a rapid speed. The 15 of them were horrified as they quickly propped up space within the water region. "What kind of battle technique is this?" asked an expert from Yongchang Immortal Sect coldly as he studied the surrounding water region with vigilance. "Not sure, it doesn't seem to have any offensive power." Bewilderment flashed in the eyes of an expert of Dahong Immortal Sect. "Forget about it. Let's kill that brat first." An old man released golden radiance as he moved. The long sword in his hand immediately wielded a golden beam that struck at Wang Xian with domineering speed. Great Waterfall Water Shockwave. Wang Xian stood in the water region, depleting his water energy within his body at a frantic rate to connect with the entire water region. Boom! He sensed that the entire water region was almost like his own world. He could easily control this world. Is this the power of an immortal's battle techniques? Radiance flashed in Wang Xian's eyes. Seeing the long sword that was darting towards him, he swung his arm. For a moment, destruction happened within the entire water region as though it was the end of the world. The rainwater swept toward the long sword and that old man. It was as if the entire water region was erupting with the wrath of God. The charging speed of the water shockwave was unusually fast, such that the long sword was scattered around like a lifeless log. The daunting water shockwave continued charging at that old man. What? For a moment, the old man was horrified as he could sense the entire world collapsing. All the energy of the world was rushing towards him. Chapter 602, Shocking Yongchang City, 1. Boom! The energy of the water shockwave reached the old man in an instant and the terrified expert from Immortal Slaying Sect emitted a golden glow. However, the glow was just like candlelight. In the face of the deluge, it was extinguished directly. The corpse of the old man sank gradually towards the ground. When the water shockwave fell on the old man, he instantly lost all signs of life. This. Be careful. Leave this region of water now. Quick. When an expert from Dahong Immortal Sect saw the expert from Immortal Slaying Sect being killed instantly, he was terrified. He shouted and retreated back immediately. Retreat! Without needing his reminder, the rest retreated back solemnly upon witnessing how terrifying the water region was. Can you escape? A cold and ruthless light flashed across Wang Xian's eyes as he waved his palm. Boom! The deluge behind him flooded towards the group with devastating might. The 14 people were terrified to realize they couldn't escape from the water region. Unity of sword and human. A golden ray of light shot out from the eyes of an expert from Immortal Slaying Sect. The next instant, it was as though he had turned into a sword as he charged forward. Boom! Wang Xian stood within the water region and waved his arm sharply. Boom! Once again, the unstoppable water shockwave crashed towards the expert from the Immortal Slaying Sect. No! That expert growled loudly and the long sword in his hand glowed with blinding golden rays. However, the golden rays shattered like glass as they were crushed instantly. Caw-caw! Terrifying water shockwaves fell on him and sounds of bones cracking reverberated instantly. Soon after, his body fell towards the ground. Grand Waterfall Water Shockwave. This is Great Waterfall Water Shockwave. An expert from Dahong Immortal Sect screamed in horror. What's the Great Waterfall Water Shockwave? Beside him, an old man raging in scorching flames could feel cold perspiration breaking out on his forehead. Within the water region, his strength was restricted by at least 20 to 30%. Immortal Class Battle Technique, Great Waterfall Water Shockwave, the old man replied with disbelief. What? This cannot be possible. No. No. He can't be an immortal realm existence. I don't believe this. The words of the old man incited frenzy among the group. They stared in disbelief at Wang Xian who stood in the water region. How can a young man like him be an immortal? We are assassinating an immortal? Fuck. Since you guys dare to try to assassinate me, all of you can die now. Great waterfall water shockwave. Wang Xian shouted, and the water dragon energy within him was depleted at a frightening pace. The surrounding water region was completely within his control. He maneuvered both of his arms. Terrifying water shockwaves charged towards the group as though it was a devastating water dragon. At almost the speed of instant shift, the devastating water shockwave penetrated through the bodies of various budding realm experts. No! Get away from me! Flames of Yongchang, an old man shouted, and horrifying energy burst out from his body towards the great waterfall water shockwave. However, the attempt was futile. The entire water region seemed to be a world of its own. If the world was attacking you and wanted you dead, there would only be a single outcome. They had no ability to withstand it all. As the water shockwave swept across, corpse after corpse fell to the ground. Wang Xian heaved a sigh and the surrounding water dissipated. He wiped away the perspiration on his forehead and felt entirely depleted. In just a little more than 2 minutes, I have almost exhausted all the energy in my body. However, this water shockwave is truly frightening. 15 budding realm experts couldn't put up any resistance at all. Wang Xian moved his hands and weapons flew towards him. Among which, there were 3 pieces of level 12 spiritual equipment. He looked around him and a blue and red light flashed in his eyes. Spirit Array. They have sealed this region with spirit arrays. However, ruthlessness flashed across Wang Xian's eyes. This spirit array was a far cry from the spirit array around Yongchang world. He could move out of the spirit array and see what was happening outside. It seems like I have encroached on the interests of various elixir pill shops and weapons shops. These must be the people they have sent to assassinate me. Although I have affected your business, you sent assassins after me without even discussing the matter. How domineering! Wang Xian looked across the corpses. He had long expected his actions to offend the other elixir pill shops and weapons shops in Yongchang City. However, he had made another consideration. That was if they approached him after he offended them, he would raise a collaboration proposal. He believed the other party would definitely be satisfied with the collaboration proposal. However, the other parties had sent 15 budding realm experts to assassinate him directly. All the forces behind the elixir pill shops and weapons shops in Yongchang City are likely to be part of this. Since you guys wanted to take the tough road, I'll play along with you to the very end. A cold light flashed across Wang Xian's eyes. He looked at the group of people waiting outside before moving. It's about time. Our elders should have killed that damn master by now. He wouldn't have to die if he knew what was best for him. After offending all the families behind the elixir pill shops and weapons shops in Yongchang City, his death was certain. Just as Wang Xian flew out of the spirit array, he could hear 2 people ridiculing him. Hee hee. You guys are the ones who don't know what's best for you. Just as the 2 men were conversing casually, a cold voice resounded from above their heads. Who? The 2 of them were shocked and lifted their heads immediately. Cough cough. At that instant, their eyes widened and fear overwhelmed them. Bam! 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 Sounds of bodies falling to the ground were incessant. Over 50 people. Wang Xian squinted his eyes and looked towards the yard. At that place, there were even wooden materials prepared to restore the structure. Other than that, he also found 4 jadestone plates that were each the size of a human head around. Concealment Array, Level 1. Spirit Array. Is this a spirit array? One that is prepared and made? Wang Xian was shocked. Recalling that the Dragon Palace would require spirit arrays, he smiled and put them within his space ring. The small shop was completely destroyed and has to be rebuilt. Wang Xian frowned. He waved his arm, carried the materials and came back to the small shop. Perhaps the assassins had taken special precautions. Only his small shop was destroyed. Wang Xian waved his arm and streams of water supported the wooden materials. After half an hour, he had finally rebuilt the small shop. As he retracted the water flow, everything was largely the same as before. The rain was still falling. However, it was a lot lighter as compared to before. There was only dim lighting around the area. Wang Xian looked at those corpses and a cold smirk appeared on his face. He turned his attention towards a tall tower in the middle. Yongchang Tower was the tallest tower in Yongchang City. It was also a tower for spectating the city view. He waved his arm and the corpses were hung on the tower. I hope your assassination attempts don't stop. I'd still like to have some fun with you guys. Chapter 603, Shocking Yongchang City, 2. Yongchang City was a big city that had a population of 10 million. Yongchang Tower was a 500-meter-tall tower, situated in the middle of Yongchang City. As Yongchang enjoyed its peaceful days, the entire city was prosperous with the vital economy controlled by various families that were established by the higher management members of immortal sects. Yongchang City was a safe city, as the Yongchang law enforcement team established by the three immortal sects upheld the security. At dawn, when the first beam of sunlight shone, the entire city was fully boisterous. The early birds were walking in the street, ready to do business or work. Ah! However, a horrifying shrill sound suddenly cut the silent dawn air. Below the Yongchang Tower, a woman was terrified upon seeing the corpses on the ground as she let out her screams. Look at the bodies, the bodies! The woman pointed at the tower as she frightfully exclaimed, drawing all the curious people over. What bodies? Why are there bodies? Who would dare to do it? A middle-aged man lifted his head in disbelief. The three immortal sects had absolute control such that Yongchang City was very safe. Of course, fights and bloodshed occur when people are around. Yongchang City had its own dark side. Someone could disappear for no reason. But nobody dared to commit murder openly, and would only destroy the corpse quietly because no one dared to challenge the superiority of the three immortal sects. However, the middle-aged man stiffened as he craned up his head and looked at the tower. Bodies were hanging from the tower. His eyes went blank with shock as he fixed his gaze on those two bodies. That is. His body slightly quivered as he narrowed his eyes. The two masters from St. Forge Workshop. They are budding realm experts. It's the elder from AO family, a budding realm expert too. The elder from Dahong Immortal Sect. That old man is the attendant from Yongchang. This is madness. There are many budding realm experts here. Gosh, who did it? How did they die? At this time, shocking exclamations were heard from all over the place. Instantly, the surrounding atmosphere began to seethe. More and more people were gathering at the bottom of the tower in the middle of Yongchang City. This is big news, big news. It was appalling for everyone to realize the deaths of so many, and their bodies hanging above the tower. Who dared to be insolent, hanging their bodies on the tower after killing them? All the ones who are dead are big shots. There are even two elders from Immortal Sect. That's way too insolent. Each of them revealed a shocking expression. The elders from Immortal Sect were the most important big shots in the entire Yongchang. Yet two of them were dead. More than 10,000 people gathered below the tower before 7 o'clock. They were pointing around, exchanging conversations in shock. Get out of the way. At this time, another exclamation was heard. One by one, the law enforcers rode on their swords and came directly to the bodies. This. The law enforcer in the middle was a middle-aged man, half-stepped to budding realm expert. When he swept his gaze across all the bodies, he froze. Budding realm, 15 budding realm experts. A group of law enforcers exchanged gazes as they revealed a stern look in their eyes. Budding realm experts were considered top-notch experts in the Yongchang world, with there being no more than a few hundred budding realm experts. Yet, 15 bodies of budding realm experts were found over here. The law enforcers gasped at the sight of it. Report to Immortals sect immediately. This involved the elders, attendants of Immortals sect, and it's not within our scope. Who is it exactly? How dare he challenge the superiority of the three Immortals sects? Who is courting their own doom? The morning in Yongchang City was unusually seething. 15 budding realm experts, including 2 masters of Saint Forge Workshop, elders, and attendants of Immortals sect. Those dead people hung at the top of the Yongchang Tower. Such a brazen act shook the entire Yongchang City. This was a blatant provocation. This incident struck fear into many people within Yongchang City. After all, 15 budding realm experts, the top-notch existences, were dead. What kind of person could kill so many experts? This was probably the most incendiary event in the 1,000 years of Yongchang City. At this moment, 60 people were already gathered at the same courtyard as yesterday. Ao Shuwen rushed over here with the members of the family, with both eyes filled with disbelief. The atmosphere in the courtyard was rather tense as the elders of the family sat on the chairs in the hall, sweeping gazes around everyone. That little shop is still there, but our people, an old man exclaimed in a low voice as he looked around with a sullen face. We had so many experts with us. How is it possible that they were all killed by the Dragon King? Is this even possible? Is it possible? Everyone darkened their expressions. Was it possible that 15 budding realm experts were killed by the Dragon King? But who else could do it if it were not him? All of them were well aware of the mission yesterday. It must have something to do with the Dragon King. 15 budding realm experts. The old man was shaking. They only had 2 budding realm experts in their family, and losing one was a heavy loss to them. All the people around kept silent. The death of the 15 budding realm experts was a huge blow to them, after which they all felt wary and fearful. What should we do now? An old man took a deep breath and asked. They had sent some men to kill the Dragon King. Yet, everyone was dead, and their bodies were hung at the Yongchang Tower as though it was a provocative sign to them. Fury and fear were felt by them at the same time. Can we make use of the power of Immortals sect and punish him? Said an old man after less than a minute of silence. Immortals sect? Now that he has been promoted to an elder of Dahong Immortals sect, how could we make use of the Immortals sect? He's the alchemy and blacksmith master. Besides, we could not announce openly that this incident had something to do with him. Another old man shook his head straight away with flickering eyes. Unless we can find his weakness, or else. An old man sighed. Now that we have fallen out with each other, he will be a strong opponent since he has the means to kill 15 budding realm experts in one go. I won't feel safe if we don't remove him. This Dragon King just sprouted up recently. I went to check on him, but couldn't find out anything. His identity is somewhat mysterious. I think we should focus on digging up his past, said Ao Shuwen as he furrowed his brows while looking at the old men. As one of the top 3 most outstanding of Dahong Immortals sect, this was the first time he felt a tinge of fear for someone of the same level. That's right. We should know our enemy. Let's dig up information on him, and cease our actions for the time being. But we also need to prevent him from striking at us. Chapter 604, Immortal Slaying Sect, Roving Sword. The deaths of 15 budding realm experts shocked the entire Yongchang City. Soon after, news on this matter also reached the 3 immortal sects. However, this matter ended without any results. The forces behind the elixir pill shops and weapons shops of Yongchang City had activated spirit arrays and artificial rain when they struck. There weren't any traces of evidence left. The enforcers of Yongchang City couldn't find any useful information. Coupled with the fact that the families had intentionally wanted to hide the matter, no conclusive result was obtained on the matter. Some members of the higher management of the 3 immortal sects found this to be a little dubious. However, this incident would have far-reaching consequences and few had the abilities to investigate. Although the entire Yongchang City was discussing the matter, there were no conclusive results. So they were from these families. Wang Xian stood by the door and heard the discussions of the surrounding crowd. A smirk appeared on his face. He had an additional rationale for hanging the corpses of these people on the Yongchang Tower. That was to find information on them. Just as he had expected, he got the information about these people from the surrounding crowd. Wang Xian smirked and returned to the second floor of his shop. Ha! However, he picked up a familiar feeling at this moment. Joy beamed in Wang Xian's eyes. He moved to the door and looked to the east. At the same time, several tens of kilometers away, a middle-aged man flying on his sword felt his heart skip a beat. Fervent excitement gleamed in his eyes. The middle-aged man was expressionless and had a terrifying edge hidden within his body. It was as though he was a razor-sharp sword hidden within a scabbard. Around him, there were several youths and middle-aged men. From time to time, this group of people would look at him with respect and fear. Wait for me here. I'm going to a place and will be back soon. The middle-aged man spoke to those around him. The next moment, he charged across the skies like a terrifying sword while disappearing from sight at an unbelievable speed. Mentor AO. The group was taken aback when they saw the figure disappearing. They exchanged glances, stopped in their flight and waited on the spot. Dragon King. At the entrance of the small shop, Wang Xian saw the middle-aged man walking towards him. Come in. Wang Xian scrutinized Roving Sword from top to bottom while revealing a radiant smile. Roving Sword. Where did you come from? Were you injured when you got here? Dragon King, I suffered terrifying attacks when I entered this world. I only managed to withstand them after returning to my original form. I landed in a lake by accident and joined the Immortal Slaying Sect after I recovered. Now, I'm a disciple of the Immortal Slaying Sect. Roving Sword followed Wang Xian into the shop and explained what had happened to him. Immortal Slaying Sect? It seems like you've had a chance encounter of your own. Wang Xian was slightly surprised. Feeling the edge from the body of Roving Sword, he was very satisfied. As compared to when he was in the outside world, Roving Sword had grown a lot stronger. Dragon King, are we going back? Roving Sword looked at Wang Xian and asked. We are definitely going back. However, now isn't the time. Wang Xian walked up to the second floor and continue staying in the Immortal Slaying Sect for the near future and wait for me to summon you. Besides that, search for the place where the spirit array is the weakest in Yongchang world. Yes, Dragon King. Roving Sword nodded his head immediately. Wang Xian nodded his head, looked at Roving Sword and asked, how far are you from reaching level 13 now? Dragon King, I'm still about 30 million points of dragon energy away, answered Roving Sword. Members of the Dragon Palace required slightly less dragon energy as compared to Wang Xian. This was because they weren't authentic divine dragons at this moment and were required to form their own divine dragon bodies to reach the first transformation of the divine dragon transformation. This process of metamorphosis required a large amount of dragon energy. However, the advancement in levels for members of the Dragon Palace couldn't rely on devouring marine animals to extract dragon energy. Other divine dragons wouldn't be able to do so either. This was a unique ability for the one with the Divine Dragon Cultivation system. In addition, the Divine Dragon Cultivation system had another ability. That was that it allowed Wang Xian to inject dragon energy directly into Roving Sword's body. It was similar to imparting abilities to another person. Within the universe, this was also a relatively difficult task to achieve. To impart personal internal energy to others, the one imparting the energy would exhaust their personal energy. If the exhaustion was too great, the one receiving might explode from the infusion of energy. However, this wouldn't be an issue for Wang Xian as he had the system in place. Over 30 million? Wang Xian squinted his eyes. If it was possible, he wanted to increase Roving Sword's strength to level 13 or, in other words, the Immortal Realm. In that case, the Dragon's Sect would have an immortal class existence other than him and things would be more convenient. Take this and return to the Immortal Slaying Sect while waiting for my summons. Wang Xian retrieved a piece of metal from the space ring and handed it to Roving Sword. This was the positive-negative metal. The same words would appear on one piece of metal when one wrote on the other. This was one unique way of communicating. Yes, Dragon King. Roving Sword nodded his head and left. Continue refining. Roving Sword being alive was a pleasant surprise for Wang Xian. Looking at the metal materials around the room, he continued his refining. Over the next few days, Wang Xian focused solely on refining spiritual equipment. Perhaps killing 15 budding realm experts the previous time had the effect of deterrence. Over the last few days, no one was sent to assassinate him. Over this period, huge families and forces went to Wang Xian with requests to refine their elixir pulls and spiritual equipment. After refining for 5 days, the materials left in the shop had increased instead of decreasing. However, Wang Xian accepted all requests. As long as people requested for him to refine elixir pills or spiritual equipment, he wouldn't reject them and gave a guarantee he would complete the orders within half a month. It's close to the arranged timing with the elders. Time to head to Dahong Immortal's sect. At the thought that Dahong Immortal's sect still had various elixir pills and spiritual equipment for him to refine, Wang Xian's eyes beamed with anticipation. Although the interest given by Dahong Immortal's sect was even lower, the number of elixir pills and spiritual equipment that Dahong Immortal's sect wanted to refine was astronomical. The business of the shop can't stop either. It seems like I have to ask the Mu family to run it for me. Wang Xian closed the door and thought to himself. After which, he flew rapidly towards Dahong Immortal's sect. Elder Wang is here. When Wang Xian arrived at the main peak, the 5 elders, who had been waiting for him, stepped forward to receive him. The great elder examined Wang Xian curiously and no one knew what he was thinking. Great elder, second elder. Wang Xian nodded his head and greeted them. Elders, where's the place for me to refine elixir pills and spiritual equipment? Let's start tonight. All right. Elder Wang is truly a fanatic at refining elixir pills and spiritual equipment. It's definitely not a fluke that you have become an alchemist master and blacksmith master. The elders were also impressed with Wang Xian's attitude. Based on the news they had gathered, this overly young alchemist master and blacksmith master had spent close to 95% of his time on refining. Becoming a master was definitely not a fluke. Chapter 605, Immortal Realm. Elder Wang, this will be the Exlir Mountain exclusive to you for refining your equipment and elixir pills from now on. On the left is a spiritual medicine garden, and material storage is on the right. There are 5 disciples in the mountain to do your bidding. 5 elders brought Wang Xian to a mountain. The mountain was hundreds of meters tall, and it was not that lofty. But the surrounding environment was not something Mdifengyu could compare to. There was no waterfall, and the surrounding was hushed. On the mountain was planted dawn redwood that could refresh the mind. This type of dawn redwood belonged to level 2 spiritual trees. With spiritual trees spreading across the entire mountain, one could imagine how precious this mountain was. How is it, Elder Wang? This mountain is one of our best few peaks within Dahong Immortal's sect. The great elder chuckled. Here, follow us to check out your alchemy and blacksmith room. The room was located in the middle of the mountain. It was not a house or building but hollowed out from the mountain. Upon entering, Wang Xian's attention was drawn to something in the middle. 5 spiritual liquid balls were suspended in the air, emitting white radiance. These are scarlet liquid balls which were once immortal class treasures of Dahong Immortal's sect. When 5 scarlet liquid balls gathered together, they could support Elder Wang refining level 12 spiritual equipment and level 7 elixir pills. Given your talent, you could become a grand master in no time, said Great Elder to Wang Xian slowly. 5 level 12 scarlet liquid balls. There was radiance flickering in Wang Xian's eyes. Scarlet liquid balls could help to coagulate extreme high-temperature water. They were the best auxiliary spiritual equipment for the art of water refining. 5 scarlet liquid balls were connected by an array such that Wang Xian could make use of it to refine level 12 spiritual equipment and level 7 elixir pills. Over here is the place where you can rest. I heard that you like to drink spiritual tea, so I got the disciples to pluck some for you, said Elder Mu to Wang Xian with a smile. Thank you, elders. Wang Xian was very pleased with the environment. This place was not something that small shop in Yongchang City could compare to. This place was absolutely the sacred grounds of refining equipment and elixir pills. Let the disciples help you with the carrying of the materials. Elder Wang, we shall leave you to your rest. If you need anything, you can just find any of the 5 of us. The great elder waved a dismissal hand to Wang Xian and left after finishing his words. Wang Xian cupped his fists at them and studied the surroundings with a satisfying look. I'll advance to level 9 within 5 days. Wang Xian took a deep breath with glistening eyes. With a soft yell, he said, Men. Yes, Elder Wang. Is there anything for us to do? Immediately, 5 disciples went to Wang Xian with respect and admiration in their eyes. Bring the material over, and bring more. I'll begin to refine elixir pills. Wang Xian looked at the 5 scarlet liquid balls as he instructed them. Yes, Elder. The 5 of them immediately went to retrieve the spiritual grass for refining the pills. Wang Xian stood before the forging table and swung his arm while fixing his eyes on the 5 scarlet liquid balls. A hot water veil appeared while Wang Xian revealed a satisfied look. Elder Wang, here's the material. 5 disciples brought hundreds of portions of materials over, leaving them by the side. Wang Xian waved them off as he entered into the state of refining elixir pills. Elder Wang is really obsessed with pills and equipment. It's been almost 5 days, and I heard the disciples saying his refining period is not less than 23 hours per day. Crazy speed in refining elixir pills. He could refine thousands of elixir pills in a day. That's madness. He alone could beat all the alchemists of immortal sects in terms of speed. At this rate, all the spiritual grass of Dehong immortal sect would not sustain his refinery for half a month. I'd guess all the spiritual grass and the refining materials of Dehong immortal sect could only last him for a month. But this should be good news for us. Good news. That's right. On the mountain next to Wang Xian, the 5 elders wanted to pay him a visit. They revealed a shocked look on their faces after hearing the reports from the 5 disciples. Seeing his frantic rate of refining elixir pills, the fact that Wang Xian was an alchemy and blacksmith master was no longer horrifying. It's almost time. After Wang Xian was done with refining 4 elixir pills, he squinted his eyes as he looked outside. In the middle of the night, Wang Xian walked out of the cave and came to the summit. The dawn redwood was exuding a sapphire glow that beautified the surrounding environment. Wang Xian took out elixir pills one by one and popped them into his mouth while smiling. Ding! Taken level 6 elixir pills, 111239 dragon energy extracted. Ding! Taken level 6 elixir pills, 112098 dragon energy extracted. Wang Xian closed his eyes while the system notification continued to ring in his mind. Ding! 112045 dragon energy taken, level up to level 9. Ka ka ka. Wang Xian opened his eyes as a virtual shadow of a divine dragon flashed across his eyes. His body let out a bone-cracking sound as he released a daunting aura from his body. Roar! A low bellow was heard with a 5-colored divine dragon slowly circling around his body. Level 9 divine dragon. Wang Xian gently said. Name, Wang Xian. Race, 5 elements divine dragon, able to transform into a human. Level 9. Dragon energy, 100003421/10000000000. Superpower, dominate the marine animals, ability to rule any marine animals that are lower than existing level. Devour any form of marine animals, for extraction of dragon energy. 5 elements control. Art of cultivation, divine dragon transformation. Art of inferno refining, using origin source flame for refining all things. Art of water refining, using art of water refining for refining. Battle techniques, water clone, low class, sword edge storm, middle class, instant shift, low class. The strength is multiple fold stronger than before. Is this the power of the immortal realm? Wang Xian's eyes were gleaming as he felt that he could sustain 20 minutes of great waterfall water shockwave after casting it. On top of that, the area that great waterfall water shockwave could encompass hit a radius of 10 kilometers. A 10 kilometers radius was a rather scary range. That was equivalent to brewing a storm on rivers and seas. Not even the modern heat weapons, including nuclear weapons, could injure me. Given my speed, I could travel to Yongchang Immortal Sect from here within a minute. My speed is 5 times the speed of sound. Wang Xian looked up. With a thought, his figure instantly appeared 10,000 meters above in the air. Wang Xian brought a smile to his face as he overlooked the entire Yongchang world. This place could no longer bind me. I'm fearless against immortals of this world. Huh. Wang Xian chuckled loudly. With a shift, he landed on the mountain again instantly. Make me a cup of tea. Wang Xian drew his lips slightly as he shouted below. Her? Yes, elder. A disciple who was on vigil hurriedly nodded as he immediately made a cup of spiritual tea. Elder, it's done. Wang Xian went back to his room, picked up the hot spiritual tea and sipped it. Elder, the 3 immortal sects are selecting 10 disciples to enter Yongchang Cauldron tomorrow. Do you want to take a look? At this time, the disciple who was keeping watch at night asked Wang Xian with slight hesitation. Chapter 606, Grand Master. Ha! The contest to select 10 disciples to enter the Yongchang Cauldron is starting tomorrow? Wang Xian was surprised when he overheard the conversation of the disciples by the side. Yeah. The selection will last for more than half a month, that disciple answered respectfully. More than half a month. So long. Wang Xian raised an eyebrow and looked confused. The grand contest of disciples from the 3 immortal sects. Yongchang world is about to descend to the real world. To ensure that disciples from all immortal sects can experience huge incremental growth, the 3 immortal sects have decided to host a grand contest for all their disciples. The top 30 will receive elixir pills and spiritual equipment as rewards. Besides that, the top 10 will qualify to enter the Yongchang Cauldron. That disciple continued his explanation for Wang Xian. Oh? Is that right? Wang Xian nodded his head slightly and answered, I'm not going. Get me another batch of spiritual medicine. I'm going to continue refining. Yes. That disciple was impressed. Despite becoming an alchemist master and blacksmith master at the young age of 20, he was still as diligent. This made an ordinary disciple like him feel ashamed. Wang Xian wasn't interested in the grand contest of disciples or entering the Yongchang Cauldron. At this point, Wang Xian wanted to prepare resources for Roving Sword, the Dragonians, and others after reaching level 9. Continue with refining elixir pills. For the subsequent period, Wang Xian was once again immersed in refining elixir pills. After his level had increased, Wang Xian's speed in refining elixir pills had increased substantially. 10 days later, after refining all spiritual medicine in Dahong Immortal Sect into elixir pills, Wang Xian requested to refine level 7 elixir pills. The 5 elders were shocked when they received the news. Refining level 7 elixir pills. Level 7 elixir pills could substantially increase the strength of a budding realm expert. Elite elixir pills like these had always been refined by an immortal realm expert in Dahong Immortal Sect. There were definitely not more than 3 alchemist grandmasters in the entire Yongchang city. 2 of them were immortal realm experts while the other was a budding realm alchemist grandmaster from Yongchang Immortal Sect who had to rely on a level 13 alchemy furnace. The 5 elders didn't reject Wang Xian's request and gave him 10 sets of materials. The 5 elders had given him 10 sets for Wang Xian to try out first. If he was successful with these sets, they would allow Wang Xian to continue. It wasn't because the elders were stingy but mainly because Dahong Immortal Sect also didn't have lots of level 7 spiritual medicine. To refine a level 7 elixir pill, one required 49 tufts of spiritual medicine. If it was unsuccessful, it would be a huge loss. Moreover, the Hong Immortal sect didn't have a lot of level 7 spiritual medicine. Wang Xian readily accepted their conditions for the 10 sets of materials. Using 2 days, he refined the 10 sets into level 7 elixir pills. The time required to refine level 7 elixir pills had exceeded Wang Xian's expectation completely. Wang Xian gave the 5 elders 12 pills. Once again, the 5 of them were dumbfounded. Close to a 30% success rate. He was able to reach a 30% success rate. Grand Master. An alchemist Grand Master. They looked at Wang Xian fervently as though they were staring at a peerless beauty. Following which, they gave Wang Xian another 20 sets of materials for him to refine. These 20 sets were also the remaining materials that they had the authority to use. Wang Xian accepted readily. In total, Wang Xian gave the 5 elders 36 level 7 elixir pills from 30 sets of materials. The 5 elders were exhilarated. What they don't know is that my success rate is still 100%. I have 84 level 7 elixir pills with me and each one could give me more than 1,000,000 units of dragon energy. With 84 pills, that's more than 80 million units of dragon energy. Wang Xian stared at the elixir pills in his hands with excitement. Although 80 million units of dragon energy was insignificant compared to the requirement of 1 billion to reach the first transformation of the divine dragon transformation, it was still sufficient to help Roving Sword reach level 13. Besides that, these elixir pills would also substantially strengthen the Dragonians. Let me nurture these 5 spiritual liquid balls into a water dragon ball first. Although merging 5 level 12 spiritual liquid balls might not reach level 13, it will still be pretty strong. When his level increased, Wang Xian wouldn't require them to refine level 7 elixir pills. He placed them into his body instantly and started nurturing. Wang Xian now had 2,000 level 5 elixir pills, 400 level 6 elixir pills and 84 level 7 elixir pills. Wang Xian looked at the elixir pills he had saved over the past half a month and smiled subconsciously. Other than those he had obtained from the Hong Immortal sect, some of these elixir pills were from the customers he had accepted through his shop. These elixir pills would be more than sufficient to strengthen the Dragonians and the Dragon Palace. At that time, I won't have to worry, even if the other 8 cauldron worlds are appearing in the real world. Wang Xian's eyes beamed with excitement. Bring in the materials for spiritual equipment. Refining of spiritual equipment. Refining of spiritual equipment in a frenzy. In less than 10 days, Wang Xian had refined over 1,000 pieces of spiritual equipment. He had also obtained 300 to 400 pieces of spiritual equipment in the process. Level 12 spiritual equipment. Wang Xian's eyes lit up and he got ready to refine level 12 spiritual equipment. This time, the 5 elders didn't hesitate at all and gave all the materials to him. When Wang Xian had been refining elixir pills and spiritual equipment, the Yongchang world had been exceptionally lively over the past half a month. The grand contest between disciples of 3 immortal sects was going on and the top 10 would qualify to enter the Yongchang cauldron for cultivation. When everyone heard about it, they were frenzied. Yongchang cauldron was the most elite spiritual equipment and an immortal treasure. Entering it was an attractive option. Moreover, based on historical records, all the immortals had reached that stage within the Yongchang cauldron. The spiritual energy in it was so dense that it could almost be considered liquid. Cultivating in it would be dozens of times more effective. It was the holy ground for countless experts. Countless capable disciples would fight for the 10 slots with all their might. Other than these 10 slots, the top 30 disciples would also receive immense rewards. Level 11 spiritual equipment, a level 6 elixir pill and 5,000 spiritual stones. The 3 immortal sects had expended huge resources in preparation of substantially improving the strength of their disciples. The competition ground was in Yongchang Immortal Sect. It was also the largest site of the 3 immortal sects. Each arena spanned several miles and there were over 20 arenas. More than several hundreds of thousands of people could sit around these arenas. Soundless sword. Breathless sword. Dustless sword. Sorrowless sword. At this very moment and in an arena of Yongchang Immortal Sect, A middle-aged man held a long sword in his hand. As he waved the sword, sword energies penetrated a young man soundlessly, breathlessly, dustlessly, and sorrowlessly. What is this? Merciless swordsmanship. What an incredible display of merciless swordsmanship. SSS. Yonglin is defeated. The third-ranked disciple of Yongchang Immortal Sect was defeated. That middle-aged man is too strong. He was executed soundless, breathless, dustless and sorrowless in an instant. Where did this disciple from Immortal Slaying Sect come from? Why haven't I heard of him before? His name is Roving Sword. Based on what I've gathered, he only joined the Immortal Slaying Sect a while back. He is incredibly strong and especially so in sword technique. He is widely regarded by many in Immortal Slaying Sect to be a once-in-a-10,000-year genius that has a high chance of reaching the immortal realm. Chapter 607, Yongchang's Supreme Talents. All the disciples of the three major Yongchang immortal sects gathered around in the contest arena at this time. As a rare once-in-millennium event, every disciple was present. Even those average disciples who had not advanced to Inborn were looking for a spot to observe the battle between top-notch Yongchang talents. Hundreds of thousands of disciples from three major immortal sects looked at that middle-aged man in the middle of the stage. All of them were discussing in astonishment. His name was Roving Sword, the scary genius of swordsmanship from Immortal Slaying Sect. Roving Sword was categorized as middle-aged in the real world, but a young man in Yongchang. Seeing that he defeated Yonglin, third-ranked in Yongchang Immortal Sect, all the disciples were in disbelief. Yongchang Immortal Sect was the strongest sect among the three immortal sects. In terms of the numbers of immortals and supreme talents, it was almost better than Dahong and Immortal Slaying Sect. The fact that Roving Sword of Immortal Slaying Sect could defeat Yonglin, the supreme talent of Yongchang, surprised everyone. You lost. Roving Sword, on the stage, remained aloof without any expressions on his face. Despite defeating the supreme talent of Yongchang world, he remained as calm as a millpond. As a golden swordfish, he did not have much emotion except for that related to becoming stronger and pledging his loyalty to the Dragon King. I lost. Yonglin looked awful. He wiped his neck that was being brushed by sword radiance and flew to one corner with a sullen face. Roving Sword turned around and flew to another place. Senior brother Ao. As the disciples of Immortal Slaying Sect saw Roving Sword, they greeted him with awe. Roving Sword nodded coldly as though he was like a block of ice. I never expected Roving Sword to be so strong. Yonglin, didn't you say you could beat him? What a shame. In the other direction, Yonglin, with fiery red hair, landed on a small hill nearby. Over a dozen disciples sat on the mountain with tea on the side. Compared to other disciples who were standing around, watching, the place where these disciples were sitting seemed more relaxing. Didn't he knock you off from the top candidate list of cultivating disciples? Yonglin returned a cold bellow as he grimaced at a young man who had a sharp chin. He's still no match for me. The young man with a sharp profile spoke without any emotion. His golden palms were like metal. His strength could be ranked in the top 5 or 6. Hong Tianda commented impassively at the side. 5 or 6? I don't think so. As soon as Hong Tianda's voice trailed off, a Yongchang Immortal Sect disciple curled his lips upwards and spoke with a smile. This guy is familiar, but he's too aloof. I don't like him. At this time, a female voice was heard as she observed with doubts. However, her strength was only at the inborn level. Since she was standing at a distance of 6 kilometers, she could not see clearly. Xiao, this fellow is even more aloof than Hong Tianda, ignoring everyone like a fool. He only has eyes for swordsmanship. A young man of Immortal Slaying Sect chuckled and replied to the girl. He's expressionless. Sounds familiar. Where have I seen this before? The girl murmured, with her eyes blinking non-stop. However, she could not recall anything. So she might as well cast this aside, and she tugged another girl by her arm with a smile. This time, my sister will top the chart. Senior brother Guwen is number 1. Senior brother Hong is number 2 and senior brother Bai is number 3. I'm at most number 4. The girl who was being hugged shook her head plainly. No, how can those guys fight with you? Unless they are not men. The girl laughed as she spoke. The surrounding crowd chuckled. Even though the girl was of inborn level, she was the youngest daughter of an immortal. The little princess of the entire Yongchang world who received more doting than her sister. When the last day is here, I'll teach that roving sword a lesson. A young man of immortal slaying sect held his level 12 spiritual sword with a face of coldness. The sudden appearance of this guy not only stole his limelight in immortal slaying sect, but also gave him the cold shoulder many times, which embarrassed him. He was prepared to teach him a lesson. Jin Jian. If you can beat him, you will be ranked number 5. By then, we won't have to compete with each other anymore. Upon hearing his words, a disciple of Yongchang Immortal Sect smiled and commented. Then I want the 5th position. Jin Jian smiled confidently. Among the disciples, you're only number 6. I'll fight with Gu Wen for number 2. At this time, Hong Tianda, sitting at the side, remarked once again. Her. Everyone around him froze for a moment as they looked at Hong Tianda with disbelief. Senior brother Hong, don't tell me there's someone better than you and senior brother Gu Wen? A young man was stunned and asked this with a smile. Yes. Hong Tianda answered directly. Who? Who actually makes you feel inferior? All the supreme talents in Yongchang are here. Who is our opponent? Asked Gu Wen to Hong Tianda with his eyes narrowed. You'll find out on the last day. Without much strength, he answered. Hong Tianda thought of a person who could easily defeat him in a single move. He was not convinced of Gu Wen, but he had to succumb to defeat by that demon-like figure. He touched the huge sword in his hand with self-understanding that he was still far from that demon-like figure. Oh? Then I will really want to take a look. At the same time, I will show you my strength. Gu Wen's lips curled up slightly with a pleasant look in his eyes. Ao Shuwen, at the side, remained quiet with glistening eyes. His mind was not here as he was thinking of the Dragon King. For half a month, over a dozen families searched the entire Yongchang world. Still, none of them retrieved any information on the Dragon King. This made them wonder. Yongchang world is not big. How can a person suddenly appear? But all these forces were not willing to give up and continued to look up. With that Dragon King around one day, the dozen forces would not have a day of peace. They must slay him. Besides, they needed to find out how he had managed to kill 15 budding realm experts. Buzz! At this time, Roving Sword was standing in front of the immortal slaying sect disciples. A thing on his arm buzzed. He swung his arm and took out the positive-negative metal. Looking at the message on it, Roving Sword did not hesitate as he flitted towards Da Hong Immortal Sect. Some of the elders and attendants from Immortal Slaying Sect furrowed their brows slightly when they saw the departing Roving Sword. This disciple is extremely talented. He's very suitable for merciless swordsmanship, but he was simply ruthless. The sect leader said the merciless swordsmanship focused on attacks. But when one attains mastery of it, one can become truly merciless, disregarding and annihilating everything. Such a disciple might be hard to come across, but he was not easy to control. The sect leader also said he would be banned from entering Yongchang Cauldron this time. It's better to prohibit his entry. If he could advance to the immortal realm with merciless swordsmanship, I don't think that even the sect leader could command him. Chapter 608, Annihilate the Dragon Sect. Unification of the Underworld. Dragon King. Roving Sword approached and descended into Wang Xian's empty refining. When Wang Xian saw Roving Sword, he revealed a smile. How many more days are left until the grand contest of Yongchang world begins? Wang Xian asked Roving Sword. We have about 4 more days, answered Roving Sword. 4 days. It's been approximately 1.5 months since we arrived in this world. When the grand contest ends, we will return after entering the Yongchang Cauldron. Wang Xian hesitated for a moment before answering. Dragon King, I found the region where we came in from previously. If we break the spirit array of that region, we will be able to get out. However, we will suffer the attacks of the spirit array. Roving Sword had not forgotten Wang Xian's instructions from before as he reported to Wang Xian. With our strength, it shouldn't be a problem for us to get out. How many more units of dragon energy are you still lacking? Wang Xian stared at Roving Sword. Reporting, Dragon King. I'm still lacking approximately 33 million units of dragon energy. With my current cultivation pace, I would require roughly 10 years. If I can enter that Yongchang Cauldron, I should be able to shorten the time required substantially, answered Roving Sword. Let me increase your strength to level 13 first. Wang Xian's eyes flickered, and he moved his arm and dense streams of dragon energy entered Roving Sword's body directly. Thank you, Dragon King. Roving Sword sat on the floor right away to digest the dragon energy from Wang Xian. Transferring dragon energy was an easy task for Wang Xian. Moreover, it was easy for Roving Sword to absorb. Dang! Wang! At this moment, razor-sharp swords appeared around Roving Sword suddenly. Wang Xian looked with astonishment at the illusory long swords hovering around Roving Sword. These long swords weren't made of metal. Instead, they were exceptionally unique long swords that seemed to possess a special characteristic. 5 long swords circled around him slowly. When Wang Xian sensed Roving Sword growing stronger rapidly, he felt more assured. Looking at the level 11 longsword in his hand, Wang Xian hesitated for some time and decided to refine a level 12 spiritual sword for him. At the same time, Wang Xian was prepared to refine some pieces of spiritual equipment for himself. At the very least, he would want a spiritual sword. With sufficient materials and having leveled up to level 9, refining level 12 spiritual equipment was an easy task for Wang Xian. Soon, 2 level 12 spiritual swords were refined. Looking at the 2 swords, Wang Xian's eyebrows knitted together. Would it be possible to craft a dragon sword? To embed the dragon balls within and refine a 5-elemental spiritual sword? Or perhaps I could refine the set of dragon balls into spiritual equipment? Wang Xian thought about it. With his current strength, he was only capable of refining level 12 spiritual equipment. If he wished to refine level 13 spiritual equipment, he would have to dabble in spirit arrays. The arts of water refining of De Hong Immortal sect had no records on level 13 spiritual equipment. When spiritual equipment reached level 13, it could be called immortal treasure. The truncheon that Ajaya had should be an immortal treasure class weapon. Previously, Ajaya had relied on her immortal treasure to stand her ground against budding realm experts despite not having any other budding realm experts. The dragon balls were, in fact, spiritual equipment. Wang Xian was rather unique as he was a 5 elements divine dragon. He could create 5 different dragon balls. If he could use 5 different dragon balls at the same time, embedding them onto spiritual equipment would be a great decision. I can embed them into 5 different swords or make them into a crown. Wang Xian raised an eyebrow. At the thought of the crown that Ajaya was wearing, a smile appeared on his face. With a thought, he looked across through the materials kept within through space rings. At this juncture, the amount of materials within the space ring was astronomical. Level 10 materials could be considered the most common. There was quite a large amount of level 12 material too. Golden crown metal, level 12. Yellowstone water, level 12. Frozen wood, level 12. Fire key stone, level 12. Yellow spiritual earth, level 12. 5 types of materials of metal, wood, water, fire and earth attribute. It's enough to refine a crown. However, I only have wood dragon ball, water dragon ball and fire dragon ball at this moment. I'm still missing earth dragon ball and metal dragon ball. Wang Xian thought to himself. However, it didn't really matter. He just had to collect 2 other elemental dragon balls in the future. The crown he was going to refine was just going to be in its preliminary form. Just as Roving Sword was advancing to level 13 and Wang Xian was refining spiritual equipment, 10 figures stood in the air at one corner of Yongchang World. 2 figures standing in the middle were blurry and had immense energy. The 2 figures emitted fiery red light that was of a different shade than ordinary fire. Their flames had a tinge of holiness. Around then, a group of people stood behind the 2 figures deferentially. "Remember what we have instructed you to do." A figure spoke to the crowd. "Yes, great fire god. We assure you that we will build a powerful information network in preparation for Yongchang World descending into the outside world." 2 familiar figures reported respectfully to the 2 illusory figures. Emperor Qi from Diabolism and Nye Wushuang, the sect leader of Donghua Sacred Sect. The seemingly invincible duo in the underworld was now standing deferentially behind the 2 illusory figures. We will send 4 other guys with you. As long as it is regarding the establishment of an information network, they will listen to your instructions. Both of you have to establish an all-knowing information group in the shortest time, one of the 2 illusory figures added. "Yes, we will definitely complete it." Emperor Qi and Nye Wushuang gave their guarantee instantly. "Alright, we will send you guys out now." The 2 illusory figures nodded their heads and raised their palms. Both of them wore red spiritual gloves and expanded instantly at this juncture. The immense energy from the 2 pairs of huge 5-meter palms shocked Emperor Qi and Nye Wushuang. Ka ka ka. A crack easily ripped apart the sky. "Get out now," the 2 illusory figures shouted. Emperor Qi and Nye Wushuang didn't dare to hesitate a moment. They moved and headed towards the other piece of sky instantly. Beside them, 4 old men followed closely. Crack crack crack. Explosions reverberated from the space as Emperor Qi and Nye Wushuang left the area. The sounds of these explosions sent chills down the spines of those who heard them. The previous time, they had almost died from the attacks of the spirit array. If the immortals had not intervened, they would have been dead by now. "We are back." The duo looked at the familiar sky and excitement beamed in their eyes. Huashan was below them and they were 10,000 meters above in the sky. The duo pondered for a long time before meeting the eyes of each other. The alliance of orthodox sects and diabolism shall work together to build a powerful information network. Nye Wushuang said solemnly. "All right." Emperor Qi nodded his head, looked before him and remarked, "I wonder if the Dragon King and the middle-aged man are dead?" "They must be dead. Even if they are dead, the Dragon Sect still exists. We can't keep the Dragon Sect. In that case, let's annihilate the Dragon Sect first to unite the underworld." The duo was emotionless and flew away, leaving a trail of light. Behind them, the 4 old men followed closely. Chapter 609, Dragon King. Boom! After a day of sitting beside Wang Xian with his legs crossed, Roving Sword opened his eyes as he sensed a daunting aura emanating out from his body. With a swing, Wang Xian surrounded him with water energy as he fixed his eyes on Roving Sword. 5 illusory longswords were spinning around him at a domineering speed. Wang Xian looked to the side and was surprised to see the longswords at the side were shaking violently. He can even vibrate level 12 spiritual swords. It looks like something is odd about Roving Sword's strength. Wang Xian narrowed his eyes in astonishment. Dragon King. At this time, Roving Sword greeted Wang Xian respectfully while he stood up and looked at Wang Xian. What kind of art are you practicing? The strength seemed odd when you attained your breakthrough. Wang Xian said to Roving Sword, as he was taken aback. Merciless swordsmanship. Dragon King, my merciless swordsmanship has advanced to level 13, the lower-class immortal realm. Lower-class immortal? Are there different classes for immortal level 2? An unexpected radiance flashed in his eyes. Yes. The beginning of the immortal realm after advancement is known as lower-class immortal. After a full mastery of high-class battle techniques, it is known as middle-class immortal. After converting battle techniques to a superpower, it would be known as upper-class immortal. Anything beyond this is not within my knowledge. Roving Sword explained to Wang Xian. I didn't know that Immortal Realm was divided into 3 levels. Wang Xian nodded his head slowly. You may go back now. I'll also enter the Yongchang Cauldron a few days from now. Yes, Dragon King. I'll come in as a champion in this grand contest, said Roving Sword plainly to Wang Xian. Wang Xian nodded with a smile. Given Roving Sword's current strength, getting the champion in this grand contest was a piece of cake. No one, except for the immortals of Yongchang, could be a match for him. After Roving Sword left, Wang Xian continued to refine his spiritual equipment. Elder Wang. 5 disciples called out to Wang Xian, who was refining equipment in the mountain 3 days later. What is it? Asked Wang Xian expressionlessly. He was ready to continue with his refinery. Elder Wang, today's the last day of the grand contest of the 3 immortal sects. It's also the day when the announcement will be made for the top 30. At that time, they will be revealing the names of disciples who will be able to enter Yongchang Cauldron. The Great Elder wants us to inform you to make a trip over, a disciple said respectfully to Wang Xian. Her last day? Wang Xian nodded and stored his materials. Fine, let's go then. Where is it? Lead the way, will you? Yes, Elder Wang. I heard that Elder Wang will be able to enter Yongchang Cauldron. Congratulations. That disciple spoke with envy. Wang Xian nodded his head impassively as he followed behind and headed to Yongchang Immortal Sect. Senior brother Guwen, go for it. Senior brother Hong, go for it. Senior brother Jin Jian, go for it. Wang Xian could hear cheering voices even when he was 1,000 meters away from the grand contest arena. Wang Xian swept his gaze across and spotted where De Hong Immortal Sect was. He immediately hovered to the elder's side. Elder Wang is here. The elders of De Hong Immortal Sect were sitting on a small hill beside the grand contest arena. Upon seeing Wang Xian's arrival, they immediately greeted him with broad smiles. Today is the day where the top 5 would become known. This was the grand contest that involved all the disciples of Yongchang Immortal Sect. At this time, none of the elders of De Hong Immortal Sect would miss it. Greetings to Great Elder, Second Great Elder, and the elders. Wang Xian cupped his fists to each of the elders. Elder Wang, the grand contest of 3 major immortal sects will be over once the top 5 is out. At that time, you'll also need to go to the stage as one of the candidates who will be entering the Yongchang Cauldron. Let all the disciples of Yongchang world know about you, said the Great Elder to Wang Xian. Sure. Entering the Yongchang Cauldron was a great opportunity for everyone. Only 13 people in 50 years could do so. After today's grand contest was over, they could enter the cauldron tomorrow. 3 default disciples would also enjoy the same glory as the top 10 disciples. Who are the top 5 currently? Wang Xian looked at the arena with curiosity as he asked the Great Elder beside him. The results will only be determined after the Battle of Roving Sword and Jin Jian of Immortal Slaying Sect. The Great Elder chuckled as he pointed to the 2 people in the field. Wang Xian looked over. Sure enough, Roving Sword and another man who had a sharp profile were battling. Wang Xian chuckled as he looked to the fiery column at one side. On it was a ranking. The 1st to 6th positions were not finalized yet, while the rest of the disciples had already become fixed. At this time, Wang Xian sensed a gaze looking at him, scrutinizing him from head to toe. He raised his eyebrows and spun around, looking at one elder on the mountain. When that elder looked over at Wang Xian, there was no concealment to his cold-looking eyes. I remember there was an elder from De Hong Immortal Sect among those families who tried to assassinate me the other night. It looks like he's the one. A tinge of coldness flashed in Wang Xian's eyes. Roving Sword is going to win. This is totally unexpected. Jin Jian has always been the top disciple of Immortal Slaying Sect. No one expected that the disciple who just joined Immortal Slaying Sect could defeat him. The top 5 will be confirmed. At this time, an elder exclaimed from the side. Wang Xian followed his gaze. True enough, the longsword of Roving Sword had slashed that young man, leaving a long wound on his body. After which he pointed the cold-looking sword at him. Jin Jian was looking dreadful while the arm that was grabbing the longsword was trembling. "Where did you get your level 12 spiritual equipment?" he bellowed in a low voice with a twisted expression. Roving Sword ignored him entirely as he moved back to his position. If he displayed his full strength, Jin Jian would have been defeated in one stroke. Fine. Seeing that Roving Sword was unconcerned with his questions, Jin Jian's face was as black as coal. He made a move and hovered to a small mountain. This is totally unexpected. Jin Jian, you actually lost to a disciple who just joined Immortal Slaying Sect. You're losing your title as the #1 disciple in the sect. Just as Jin Jian arrived at that mountain, a young man's taunting voice rang in his ears. If not for the fact that he possesses a level 12 spiritual sword, he would definitely not be my match, said Jin Jian coldly with a gloomy look. Hee, don't you have a level 12 spiritual sword too? That young man chuckled, revealing a tinge of curiosity on his face. Did you guys from Immortal Slaying Sect say you would stop him from entering the Yongchang Cauldron? Besides, he doesn't have any friends. Where did he get his level 12 spiritual sword from? How would I know? Jin Jian's expression sank as he tightened his grip on his spiritual sword. I know it was the Dragon King. He was the one who refined it. At this time, Ao Shuan's voice cut through the air. He looked at the spiritual swords in Hong Tianda and Piao Lingshue's hands. The swords in senior brother Hong and junior sister Piao's hands were refined by Dragon King. Dragon King. Yet, what Ao Shuan said stunned the two people beside him. Xiao Xiao and the guild leader of Sacred Followers Guild. When they heard the name, there was a trace of doubt flashing across their eyes. Chapter 610, He is the Dragon King, 1. Dragon King. Xiao Xiao mumbled to herself upon hearing Ao Shuan. She had a strong impression of this name. That brat that could be considered demon-like even when compared with those of his age in Yongchang world also had the name Dragon King. When she had first entered the real world, she had no regard for any forces in the underworld, let alone any of the supreme talents of the underworld. Even Emperor Qi of Diabolism and the sect leader of Donghua Sacred Sect, Nia Wushuang, were average in her eyes. However, that demon-like Dragon King had truly surprised and shocked her. Upon hearing this name, she was a little doubtful. The sect leader of the Sacred Followers Guild beside her was equally surprised and doubtful. That's right. It was refined by the Dragon King. Piao Lingxue nodded her head plainly before continuing, however, he's just a blacksmith master. He probably couldn't refine level 12 spiritual equipment. Dragon King. Several supreme talents of Yongchang Immortal Sect and Immortal Slaying Sect exclaimed with curiosity. Over the recent period, they had been focusing on preparing for the grand contest and had not paid attention to other matters. He can refine level 12 spiritual equipment now. He's a blacksmith grand master, said Ao Shuan with a tinge of fear and respect. That's a grand master. Over the recent period, the dozen-odd forces had been monitoring the Dragon King through various methods. The moment he could refine level 7 elixir pills and level 12 spiritual equipment, they knew about it. The greater the strength the Dragon King displayed, the more horrified they were. They also knew about Roving Sword visiting the Dragon King a few days ago. What? Grandmaster? The crowd of supreme talents were taken aback as they revealed expressions of shock. Ao Shuan nodded his head, looked at Jin Jian and said, his spiritual sword was forged by the Dragon King. Dragon King. Grandmaster? Jin Jian looked bitter and a tinge of ruthlessness flashed across his eyes. Ao Shuan was secretly exhilarated. He knew that Jin Jian was a petty person who would definitely deal with those who went against him. As long as he could give the Dragon King some issues, Ao Shuan wouldn't let the opportunity slip. Who would have expected that another Grandmaster would appear in Yongchang world? The handsome young man with long hair, Guwen, was surprised. Senior brother Hong probably referred to him when he talked about the one who would be first in the rankings of young disciples. Ao Shuwen glanced at Guwen, smirked and added, "Oh? Hong Tianda, is he the one you are talking about?" Before Hong Tianda said a word, Guwen squinted his eyes and asked him. "Yeah. You wouldn't be a match for him," said Hong Tianda boldly and frankly. "Hee. Is that so? In that case, I would like to meet him if there's an opportunity," replied Guwen coldly. Hong Tianda didn't respond and simply sat there. Seeing this, Ao Shuwen was pleasantly surprised. "Junior sister Hua, it's our battle next. Do you still want to compete?" "It's not necessary. I admit my defeat. Let's bring on the battle between senior brother Hong and roving sword from Immortal Slaying Sect." "Huh. Hong Tianda, I'll defeat you easily in our upcoming battle. The title of the strongest disciple of the three immortal sects will definitely be mine." The contest continued. After half an hour, the match between the strongest disciple of the Hong Immortal Sect, Hong Tianda, and roving sword of Immortal Slaying Sect started. Just as everyone thought that Hong Tianda would emerge victoriously, roving sword from Immortal Slaying Sect won once again. This shocked everyone, including all the supreme talents. Senior brother Hong was defeated by roving sword. What a huge upset. This is really shocking. Roving sword defeated senior brother Hong Tianda. It would seem that he has the strength to win it all. He's the greatest dark horse for this contest. However, it would likely be impossible for him to defeat senior brother Guwen. Senior brother Guwen is a level stronger than senior brother Hong. He should be able to defeat roving sword. Around the arena, several tens of thousands of disciples were discussing fervently. Roving sword making it to the finals had exceeded the expectation of all the disciples. However, none of these disciples felt that roving sword would be able to defeat Guwen. Guwen was the strongest disciple of Yongchang Immortal Sect. He was incredibly strong and had heavenly flame, a set of spiritual equipment and strength that triumphed over his peers and other supreme talents. Roving sword making it to the finals was indeed unexpected. However, he's still lacking the strength to defeat Guwen. An elder on the mountain peak, where all elders had gathered, commented plainly. "Elder Wang, once their contest is over, head to the arena. At that time, the sect will announce the name list to enter Yongchang Cauldron." The great elder looked at Wang Xian and remarked. Wang Xian nodded his head. He looked around him and smirked. No one here could defeat roving sword. At this very moment, on the small mountain peak where the elders of Immortal Slaying Sect were standing, the elders' eyebrows were knitted together and their eyes were fixed on roving sword. He defeated Hong Tianda. Do you guys think he will defeat Guwen? An old man frowned and asked this with a bitter face. Although the sect leader had given his orders to disallow roving sword from entering the Yongchang Cauldron, roving sword had now made it to the finals. Based on the rules of the grand contest, the top 10 would qualify to enter Yongchang Cauldron. On the rare chance that roving sword was to defeat Guwen, he would be the overall champion for this grand contest. If they were to disallow the strongest disciple of the three immortal sects from entering Yongchang Cauldron, they would find it hard to explain themselves. Moreover, this wouldn't do any good to the reputation of Immortal Slaying Sect. Trying to put down their most talented disciple? What would the disciples of other immortal sects think? The current situation is having some implications for the reputation of our Immortal Slaying Sect. He most likely couldn't defeat Guwen from Yongchang Immortal Sect. An elder standing by the side spoke with a worried frown. What if? Why don't we let him give up the match? This would save us from any potential implications. Another elder hesitated for a moment before suggesting. That will work. At the end of the day, he will definitely have issues with not being able to enter the Yongchang Cauldron. In that case, let's just be more decisive. What issues could this kid have? He's just like a machine. The elders of Immortal Slaying Sect made their decisions and informed the referee immediately that Roving Sword from Immortal Slaying Sect had admitted his defeat. Admitted defeat? Roving Sword from Immortal Slaying Sect has admitted his defeat. Sigh. I thought we would be getting a thrilling contest. Who would have expected him to admit defeat? It seems like Roving Sword knows where he stands. He probably has chosen to admit his defeat after learning how strong Senior Brother Guwen is. Indeed, Senior Brother Guwen is undoubtedly the strongest disciple in the younger generation. When the hundreds of thousands of disciples around heard the news of Roving Sword admitting his defeat, they frowned initially and soon broke out into raucous discussion. When Wang Xian heard the news, he was astonished. Roving Sword admitted his defeat? Roving Sword had told him that he was going to take first place. Since Roving Sword had promised him, Roving Sword would definitely ensure that it came to fruition. Roving Sword, you won't have to fight the last match. We have admitted defeat on your behalf. Just as Roving Sword was frowning and feeling puzzled about the news, he heard the great elder of Immortal Slaying Sect. He was taken aback. His expression turned solemn, but he didn't say a word. Chapter 611, He is the Dragon King, 2. This ends our Grand Disciple Tournament of Yongchang Immortal Sect. Disciples in the top 30, please make your way up Talent Peak. Default disciples within the 3 major immortal sects to enter the Yongchang Cauldron, please make your way up Talent Peak. The voice of the referee echoed within an area with a radius of more than a dozen kilometers as he remained on the sparring stage, once all the placings had been finalized. All the disciples heard the announcement loud and clear. Disciples in the top 30, they are the 30 strongest disciples within all of Yongchang. How I envy them. It's all glory and achievement for these 30 most outstanding ones within the entire Yongchang. The top 10 are qualified to enter the Yongchang Cauldron. This is a massive resource we're talking about. In addition, there are 3 default disciples appointed within the 3 immortal sects. I wonder who they are. The default disciple within the Yongchang Immortal Sect is Junior Sister Xiao Xiao, without a doubt. As for Immortal Slaying Sect, it should be Lu Chenfeng. At the mere age of 20, he already possesses Dan Realm prowess. Such an incredible natural gift. Rumor has it that he's the default disciple, while the one for Dahong Immortal Sect remains unknown. The discussion began to fire up amongst the crowd, which was made up of hundreds of thousands of disciples. The entire area was sent into utter chaos. Let's go. Congrats, Senior Brother Guwen. To think that Roving Sword still knows his limits. In knowing that he is no match for you, he chose to concede defeat immediately. As I said, Senior Brother Guwen will definitely emerge as the top in this tournament as the lead disciple of the 3 major immortal sects. Several disciples congratulated Guwen as they stood atop the summit where all the outstanding young heroes had gathered. I intended to spar against that Roving Sword. Little did I expect him to throw in the towel. He sure knows his limits, Guwen roared with laughter with his head held high. He was wearing gloves the color of crimson while holding on to the flaming spear. There he was, as though he was the flaming god of war. With a face full of self-conceit, he scanned his surroundings while revealing a faint smile. He would emerge as the lead disciple of the 3 major immortal sects after today, which was an unparalleled honor. Let's go, Grand Senior Brother. One of the disciples gestured with a smile. In one swift shuffle, he leaped onto a long sword and flew towards another summit which stood beside the current sparring stage. Let's go. The crowd of outstanding young heroes flew off. In an instant, their movement attracted the stares of the hundreds of thousands of disciples as they looked at the group with the utmost envy and respect. Be on your way now, Xiao Xiao. The guild leader of the Sacred Followers Guild laughed as he spoke when he saw that the former had yet to take her leave as they remained on the summit. Father, you said you had a set of spiritual equipment and armor refined for me. I'm going to put them on today, haha. Xiao Xiao grinned from ear to ear before flying in another direction. Elder Wang, please get going, the great elder said to Wang Xian with a smile, as the duo stood atop the Elders' Summit that belonged to Dahong Immortal Sect. "Alright, Elders. I'll head over then," Wang Xian replied pleasantly. With a change of stance, he took off in the direction of the mountain which stood at the center. Huh. Several elders from Dahong Immortal Sect watched from behind Wang Xian with a tinge of envy. That said, one of the elders frowned as he watched Wang Xian making his way over. He looked on with an even darker expression. Whiz! Dragon King! As Wang Xian flew over to the centermost mountain, he was greeted by the voice of Roving Sword. Roving Sword, why did you concede defeat at the last minute? Wang Xian asked in utter confusion as he looked at Roving Sword with furrowed brows. It's the several elders from Immortal Slaying Sect. They threw in the towel directly, and only informed me after conceding defeat. Roving Sword replied emotionlessly. They got you to concede defeat? Wang Xian was taken by surprise. To which, he continued, it's alright, so long as you can make it into the Yongchang Cauldron. Yes, Dragon King. Roving Sword nodded in response. As the two shifted, they arrived at the peak of the centermost mountain. As they stood on the platform of the summit, they could see the hundreds of thousands of disciples at a glance. As the platform was relatively small, the crowd of disciples below could also make out the outline of those atop the platform. Congratulations, Senior Brother Guwen, for becoming the lead disciple of the three major immortal sects. The strongest contender amongst all current disciples. Truly deserving of the title, Senior Brother Guwen. As they reached the stage, Wang Xian could see the crowd who had gathered to extend their best wishes to Guwen. Huh. At the sight, Wang Xian snorted in dismissal as he stood by the side. Junior Brother Hong, which is the Dragon King whom you were talking about? The one who made you think he was one we couldn't match up to? Show him to me. Just then, Guwen spoke in a standoffish tone. Amongst the disciples of the three major immortal sects, one's position would not be based on age, but rather capabilities alone. The one to emerge as the strongest would ascend to become the senior disciple. Guwen had asked the question indifferently while surveying his surroundings, where his gaze eventually landed on Roving Sword and Wang Xian. That's right, which of them is it? Is it that young chap beside Roving Sword? That's him. Dragon King of the Dahong Immortal Sect. Another young man spoke with a faint smirk while standing beside Guwen as he turned over to look at Wang Xian as well. The stage was relatively small, hence one could see everyone around with a brief glance. Amongst which, Wang Xian stood out as the only stranger, one whom they had never met before. Guwen, you are no match for him. Hong Tianda said to Guwen in a flat tone as he watched Guwen, locking his brows. Oh, is that so? I'll see for myself then. During the matches this time around, Junior Sister Hua conceded defeat at the last minute. While Roving Heavens, who defeated you, had to concede defeat towards me. How upsetting. If possible, I wouldn't mind having someone to practice with. Guwen rebutted with his head held high while he placed his spear on his back. The title of the lead disciple of the three major immortal sects, along with the concession of defeat from Roving Sword, had built up his self-conceit and ego. But then again, he had the means to. He smirked as he looked at Wang Xian before making his way over with a smile. Hi, Junior, I'm Guwen. Junior Brother Hong has been speaking highly of you, so I decided to come over and take a look. Oh, hello there. Wang Xian nodded briefly as he looked at Guwen. He said that your prowess is above mine. So I've come to test it out myself and to help Junior Brother Hong correct his mistake, Guwen continued. That I, Guwen, am actually the most powerful. Guwen enunciated every word of his last sentence with extra emphasis while looking at Wang Xian with the utmost dominance. Meanwhile, the crowd of disciples looked upon the domineering Guwen, who was surging with pride, in complete admiration. This should be the dominance expected from the lead disciple of the three major immortal sects. That's right, Senior Brother Guwen's truly formidable. Just based on this thought of his, that he's unrivaled, it's already something which no one can compare to alone. Truly admirable. The crowd of disciples from the three immortal sects heaved a sigh of envy and self-resignation. During his last two matches in the Grand Disciple Tournament amongst the three immortal sects this time, the opponents proceeded to concede defeat without senior brother Gu Wen even having to lift a finger. For they knew that they were not his match. And yet, Hong Tianda was now saying that senior brother Gu Wen was no match for the Dragon King. Hence, Gu Wen decided to challenge Wang Xian. Such was the dominance and aura from the strongest contender of the current times. If you say you're the most powerful, then so be it. Wang Xian replied to Gu Wen flatly. He had intended to leave right after entering the Yongchang Cauldron this time and wanted no trouble. He had even less interest in pitting himself against a chap who he could crush as easily as the pinching of his fingers. Ha! Upon seeing the attitude coming from Wang Xian, Gu Wen frowned. I never admit to being the most powerful through words, but prove it through action. You can test it out yourself if you are unconvinced, Junior. Thereafter, he continued indifferently. And let us see for ourselves what prowess you possess, which gave you the right to be appointed as the default disciple by the Dahong Immortal Sect to enter the Yongchang Cauldron. The crowd laughed in jest as they watched the spectacle while eyeing Wang Xian with the utmost curiosity. Just you alone have no right to challenge the Dragon King. Roving Sword retorted coldly upon seeing how snobbish Gu Wen was while speaking to his beloved Dragon King. Chapter 612, He is the Dragon King, 3. You aren't qualified to challenge the Dragon King. A cold and emotionless voice came from Roving Sword, shocking the crowd on the platform. Gu Wen was stunned too. He squinted his eyes and turned to face Roving Sword emotionlessly. For a guy who didn't even have the guts to face me in battle, what right do you have to speak before me? Gu Wen stared at Roving Sword and chided him harshly. Roving Sword, watch your words. Qualified? TSK. What qualifications are needed? The predetermined slots will only be given to young disciples who showed promise, but not so for an expert. An expert wouldn't require this predetermined slot. Just as Gu Wen completed his words, Jin Jian stared at Wang Xian and mocked harshly. Senior brother Jin is right. The predetermined slots wouldn't be for experts but for promising disciples. Another Supreme Talent disciple seconded this. He looked at Roving Sword with contempt before continuing. Moreover, a guy who didn't even dare to face senior brother Gu Wen isn't qualified to say this. How ignorant. Seeing how the situation had developed, Piao Lingxue and Hong Tianda frowned slightly. They had not expected Roving Sword to speak up for the Dragon King. Moreover, his words weren't rational at all. On the other end, Ao Shuwen was pleasantly surprised and watched how things had developed with a smirk. Scram! However, to the astonishment of everyone, Roving Sword's cold and emotionless voice resounded once again. His response of scram instantly dampened the atmosphere. Roving Sword, you better watch your words. For a guy who isn't even qualified to enter the Yongchang Cauldron, how could you even be so arrogant? Jin Jian, who bore a grudge against Roving Sword, remarked harshly. Ha! He isn't qualified? What Jin Jian had said aroused the suspicions of the supreme talents around. That's right. You guys will know in a while. A person who doesn't respect his mentors and doesn't know how to interact with others won't be qualified to enter Yongchang Cauldron. Jin Jian remarked with ridicule while smirking over the treatment of Roving Sword. The Immortal Slaying Sect is right with this decision. Gu Wen stared plainly at Roving Sword while commenting. Not qualified? Wang Xian frowned slightly. Roving Sword isn't qualified to enter the Yongchang Cauldron. He is the runner-up for the grand contest. Why wouldn't he be qualified? Admitting defeat on his behalf and barring him from entering Yongchang Cauldron subsequently? It seems like the higher management of the Immortal Slaying Sect isn't pleased with Roving Sword. Wang Xian raised an eyebrow and looked at Gu Wen with a sense of superiority. With an emotionless tone, he said, just scram when we ask you to scram. You guys must be courting your own deaths. When Wang Xian asked him to scram again, anger flashed in the eyes of Guwen. As the strongest disciple of the three immortal sects and the #1 disciple for the grand contest, he had already become unhappy when Hong Tianda questioned the legitimacy of his status. Now, he was offended consecutively. Anger welled up within him and he grabbed the long spear behind his back. Wang Xian didn't say a word and only looked at Roving Sword simply. "You are the one who's courting your own death, trash." Dang! Roving Sword naturally understood what Wang Xian intended. The next instant, he drew the spiritual sword from his scabbard. Great, great! A piece of trash who didn't even have the guts to fight against me is challenging me now. In that case, I'll show you my real strength and send you rolling off the platform. Seeing Roving Sword draw his sword, Guwen was as cold as ice. Killing intent flashed across his eyes. Dustless sword. Without batting an eye, Roving Sword attacked with the long sword in his hand with unbelievable speed. Guwen was astonished at the speed of Roving Sword. Flames over 100 meters in size were emitted from his body like a godly fire spear. Shit! Move back! The sudden attack of Roving Sword and the release of aura by Guwen shocked the group of supreme talents as they retreated to the side instantly. Fuck! What's happening? What's happening? Why are there sudden explosions of terrifying aura from the platform above the peak? Shit! Roving Sword is fighting with senior brother Guwen. Why did they start fighting so suddenly? This. What's happening? Roving Sword didn't admit his defeat willingly. Why would he start a fight now if he felt that he isn't a match for senior brother Guwen previously? The hundreds of thousands of disciples around were shocked to see a battle erupting on the platform above. Why would there be a fight suddenly? Even the elders from the three immortal sects were astonished by what they were seeing. You alone aren't sufficient to be arrogant before the Dragon King. Roving Sword was unmoved in the face of Guwen, who was shrouded in flames that reached over 100 meters. He swung the long sword in his hand and terrifying metal attribute energy coalesced into a 1,000-meter-long longsword which slashed ahead. What? How could he be capable of such a terrifying attack? Guwen felt fear upon seeing the heart-wrenching energy within the strike which Roving Sword had launched casually. Flaming Cage Bell, he shouted loudly. The next instant, the flames around him turned golden and formed a dazzling huge bell around him. The huge bell around him looked extremely tough and thick. Boom! What? However, the terrifying energy of the longsword instantly split the bell the moment it collided with it. What gives you the guts to even be arrogant? Roving Sword moved and appeared before Guwen the next instant. Without holding back at all, he lunged forward with the longsword in his hand. Boom! Terrifying sword glow fell on Guwen as fear beamed in his eyes. Boom! From a height of 1,000 meters, Guwen fell towards the ground at an astonishing speed. The moment he crashed into the ground, a terrifying explosion reverberated across. Cough, cough! No! This isn't possible! Guwen spat out a huge mouthful of blood. Looking at the protecting spiritual gear on him, his eyes were filled with disbelief, fear and surprise. If the elders had not admitted my defeat to the referee without informing me, do you think a piece of trash like you would be able to get the first ranking? At this moment, Roving Sword's emotionless voice reverberated throughout the crowd. The entire fight had lasted for at most 5 seconds from the start to the end. Before all the disciples around could react to it, Guwen was defeated. Moreover, his defeat was sealed in 2 moves. Just 2 moves. This made many people unable to believe what they were seeing. Moreover, senior brother Guwen had still been the champion of the grand contest moments ago. He was the strongest disciple of the 3 immortal sects and the entire younger generation. Yet, he was defeated in such a short time without being able to put up any resistance. The contrast was simply too huge. The group of supreme talents in the air stared at senior brother Guwen with disbelief and shock. How can this be possible? How could he be so strong? Roving Sword said moments ago that it was the elders from Immortal Slaying sect that admitted his defeat. In other words, it wasn't his own decision. Defeating senior brother Guwen in 2 strikes. Has he reached the half-step to immortal realm? The group of supreme talents were shaken and couldn't help but swallow their saliva in awe. As for the hundreds of thousands of disciples from the 3 immortal sects, they felt as if their world was being thrown into disarray. Chapter 6:13, He is the Dragon King, 4. How's this possible? How could this be? How can he be that powerful? This is madness. It's insane. The stances weren't even this forceful during the spar between Roving Sword and senior brother Hong Tianda. Now how did it? Just earlier, senior brother Roving Sword had said that the elder from Immortal Slaying Sect had been the one to concede defeat personally by gesturing to the referee. Why would he do that? 2 moves. All it took was 2 mere moves to defeat senior brother Guwen. It was really formidable. The gap is too huge. To think that senior brother Guwen, the invincible one of the young generation, has been defeated so easily. This. The surrounding hundreds of thousands of disciples uttered as they gulped in disbelief, watching senior brother Guwen. He was slowly picking himself up from the ground while recovering from a state of being a mess. This was the number 1 senior brother Guwen, champion of a grand tournament. To think that he could not even withstand 2 moves. Just how powerful was the prowess of Roving Sword? This fellow. Meanwhile, the elders from the Immortal Slaying Sect muttered as their group of more than a dozen watched from atop the summit they were at. They all looked on with darkened and awful expressions. But while they were fuming in fury, they were also overwhelmed by shock and trepidation at the same time. Don't tell me he made some breakthroughs in his swordsmanship? How could this be? How long has it been? To think his prowess has developed this much. He's one wicked talent. Given his spiritual equipment and armor, along with his prowess, Guwen is already considered to be at the apex of the budding realm. And yet, he's been defeated in 2 moves. Don't tell me Roving Sword's prowess has already ascended to half-step to immortal realm. That's possible. It appears that he is very likely to reach the immortal realm, even if he doesn't enter the Yongchang Cauldron. The group of elders from the Immortal Slaying Sect spoke as they eyed Roving Sword with the utmost shock and caution. After all, the prowess which the latter displayed had sent them into alarm and frenzy. Wow, if he still isn't allowed into the Yongchang Cauldron given his current prowess, then, the elder from the Immortal Slaying Sect murmured with a contorted look. The Immortal Slaying Sect had really embarrassed themselves this time around. The approach of Roving Sword was also no doubt a tight slap to the Immortal Slaying Sect. Dragon King. Roving Sword called out. He was checking on Guwen, who was located beneath, before arriving by Wang Xian's side. Oh! Without saying a word, Wang Xian nodded in response as he stood atop the summit, expressionless. To which, Roving Sword also remained silent as he stood behind Wang Xian on his diagonal right. Wang Xian had his reasons for mobilizing Roving Sword and allowing him to defeat Guwen. The Immortal Slaying Sect had forbidden Roving Sword from entering the Yongchang Cauldron, which was somewhat against the rules of the Grand Tournament. Yet, he had no means of intervention given that this was the decision made by the Immortal Slaying Sect. In that case, he might as well allow Roving Sword to defeat Guwen. With even the champion of the Grand Tournament of the 3 major immortal sects being unable to make it into the Yongchang Cauldron, it would no doubt place the Immortal Slaying Sect in a difficult position. Perhaps then, through this method, the Immortal Slaying Sect would allow Roving Sword into the Yongchang Cauldron. Tisk, Roving Sword seems to be on rather amicable terms with this Dragon King. Just then, the crowd of outstanding young heroes who had been suspended in mid-air took in one deep breath as they eyed Wang Xian and Roving Sword, who were on stage with glistening eyes. This Roving Sword seems to be very obedient towards the Dragon King's words. Have you all noticed that he's been standing one step behind the Dragon King throughout these proceedings while paying him due respect? One of the outstanding young heroes looked on at the duo with utter shock, as they remained on stage. As of now, the only ones remaining on the stage of the summit were Roving Sword and Wang Xian. As they stood, they gave off a special vibe to the rest who were watching. It was an attitude as though they were invincible. It was an attitude as though they had the world at their feet. His prowess? Jin Jian and Ao Shuwen questioned this with awful expressions as they eyed the duo that was on stage. Seems like Roving Sword is no match for the Dragon King, which explains why he's so respectful towards him. Hong Tianda finally managed a comment after gasping in a deep breath. At the same time, the crowd of outstanding young heroes who were suspended in mid-air remained silent for a long while. What? All the outstanding young heroes were stunned by the sentence from Hong Tianda as they turned their heads in utter shock. How's that possible? I reckon, with Roving Sword's prowess, even the elders from our immortal sects would be no match for him. How can that Dragon King be even stronger than Roving Sword then? Ao Shuwen rebutted immediately while his face darkened. In my opinion, Roving Sword would be able to handle at least 5 to 6 budding realm experts single-handedly. So how can that Dragon King be even stronger than him? Don't tell me their prowess has reached half-step to immortality, another young hero questioned with a low growl. He ever defeated me in one move. Hong Tianda replied coolly as he watched Wang Xian with shifting eyes. What, defeated you, senior brother Hong, in one move? All the young heroes gasped once again. As they did, they spun their heads about and fixed their gazes upon Wang Xian. Roving Sword was able to defeat senior brother Gu Wen using 2 moves while the Dragon King was able to take senior brother Hong down in 1. The young heroes had their tongues tied as they gazed at the duo on the stage. The hundreds of thousands of disciples who remained beneath also had their eyes on the duo who remained on stage. Why aren't the other seniors getting up on the summit stage? Some of the disciples muttered under their breath as they watched in confusion. Let's go. After another round of silence which lasted under a minute, Hong Tianda shifted his stance before leaping gently onto the summit stage. He stood to the side while sweeping his gaze across the duo. Piao Lingxue looked at Wang Xian and still did not walk over to him after some brief contemplation. She felt as though the other party and herself were beings from 2 different worlds. If what Hong Tianda says is true. Perhaps then, under some preemptive calculation, the Dragon King and Roving Sword pair are enough to kill 15 experts of the budding realm. Ao Shuwen managed this with a burdened look while his eyes watered. Dear outstanding young heroes, please stand along the aisle. Sect leader Hong Yen will soon present you with your awards. Just then, the voice of an elder from the Yongchang Immortal sect could be heard. The various disciples made their way to the fringe of the stage. After having just recovered from their excitement, their eyes were stirring with emotions. To each and every one of the disciples, it was an immense honor to be able to have the Grand Immortal grace the event in person. Will the Immortal appear? Wang Xian asked in mild surprise, but recovered his composure soon after. For he feared no Immortal right now. Shum. Just then, a commotion was stirring from beneath. Ha! It's junior sister Xiao Xiao. It's junior sister Xiao Xiao. The attire on her though, looks so scary. Such a powerful surge of flames from this attire. It's covered in level 12 spiritual equipment from top to bottom, the crowd of outstanding young heroes said as they looked down. Upon seeing Xiao Xiao, who was emitting holy flames while she flapped her flaming wings, the youths peered at her in envy. Xiao Xiao was decked in spiritual equipment from head to toe, from her earrings, necklace, bangles, shoes, clothes, and wings. I reckon it's the spiritual equipment which His Excellency Huolong has made for junior sister Xiao Xiao. The crowd of youths muttered to themselves while green with envy. Dear senior brothers and sisters, I'm here. Xiao Xiao said in elation as she smiled while glancing over to the crowd who stood on the summit stage. Come over quick, Xiao Xiao. Come on up, junior sister. The group of youths gestured to Xiao Xiao with big smiles. Smiling, she nodded in response before flapping her wings in resemblance to a beautiful and adorable flaming angel. Turning their heads to look up at her, the hundreds of thousands of disciples underneath looked on in complete awe. Some of the male disciples even uttered to themselves, saying that the one who marries her would be able to have it easy for the rest of their life. Chapter 614, Wait While I Kill Them, 1. Hee hee. Feeling the gazes from hundreds of thousands of people, Xiao Xiao felt a little shy as she flapped her wings and moved towards the platform on the peak. However, she was completely dumbfounded when she was approaching the platform and saw a familiar figure. It's her. I had not expected her to be from De Hong Immortal Sect. However, Wang Xian frowned and clearly wasn't very excited upon seeing the young girl. He had seen the young girl previously. She was a disciple of the sect leader of the Sacred Followers Guild. Why would it be him? This. Xiao Xiao was dumbfounded at this moment. She stared blankly at Wang Xian and mumbled, Dragon King. Why is he? It's really him. Xiao Xiao, come to my side. At this moment, a girl on the platform signaled to her. She flew mechanically towards the platform while her gaze was still locked tightly on Wang Xian. Xiao Xiao, what are you looking at? When the girl on the platform saw the blank look on Xiao Xiao, she asked this curiously. Dragon King. He is the Dragon King. What a surprise. Really unexpected. Xiao Xiao shouted abruptly. Her eyes widened and stared at Wang Xian with disbelief. Ha! Her sudden actions drew the attention of the remaining supreme talents on the stage as they looked over inquisitively. What's the matter, Xiao Xiao? The girl placed her arms on Xiao Xiao's shoulders and asked. We meet again. Wang Xian turned around, looked at Xiao Xiao and revealed a faint smile. Xiao Xiao's expression changed and she started observing Wang Xian from top to bottom while ignoring the girl beside her. With a surprised look, she remarked, I had not expected you to be still alive. Wang Xian smiled and said with confidence, who could possibly kill me? Xiao Xiao, do you know the Dragon King from De Hong Immortal Sect? Seeing that Xiao Xiao was ignoring her, the girl beside Xiao Xiao frowned and asked again. Around them, the supreme talents watched curiously. Dragon King from De Hong Immortal Sect. Xiao Xiao stared at the Dragon King and said with her eyes shimmering, he isn't the Dragon King from De Hong Immortal Sect. Ha! The other girl and the surrounding supreme talents were astonished. Wang Xian looked plainly at her and didn't attempt to stop her. He knew that he wouldn't be able to do so. He's the Dragon King from the Dragon Sect. The Dragon King from Dragon Sect of the real world. Xiao Xiao stared intensely at Wang Xian as she increased her volume. What? The surrounding supreme talents were stunned and surprised. In the real world, the Dragon King from the underworld established the Dragon Sect to the age of 20. With the forces of his Dragon Sect, he triumphed over the strongest expert of the Alliance of the Orthodox Sects, Nie Wushuang, and Emperor Qi from Diabolism. In the battle at the peak of Huashan, he broke the defensive spirit array of Yongchang world and entered our world. I thought he would be killed by the attacks of the spirit array, but he survived unexpectedly. Xiao Xiao added this emotionally. Her face was flushed and a myriad of emotions filled her eyes. She was shocked but also respected Wang Xian. What? Dragon King from the real world? Guwen exclaimed with astonishment as he flew up. The surrounding supreme talents were equally astonished. Junior sister Xiao Xiao, you are saying he's from the real world? This. How did he get into our Yongchang world? It's definitely him. I'm certain that I didn't mistake him for someone else. It is him. Are you the Dragon King from the Dragon Sect? Xiao Xiao pointed at Wang Xian and asked loudly. The edge of Wang Xian's lips curved upwards as he replied, I'm the Dragon King of Dragon Sect from the real world. Nice to meet everyone. I'm the Dragon King of Dragon Sect from the real world. Nice to meet everyone. Upon hearing Wang Xian, the eyes of the surrounding supreme talents widened in disbelief. All of them turned around and stared at Wang Xian vigilantly. He's from the real world? Who would have expected you to be from the real world? The supreme talents growled with astonishment while their eyes widened. The outside world and an outsider. You are from the real world. What are you plotting? To infiltrate our immortal sects? Ao Shuan's expression changed and he shouted loudly. His voice reverberated across tens of kilometers. All the disciples around could hear him clearly. What's the situation? What's happening? An outsider from the real world? Seeing the sudden changes happening on the stage on the peak, the surrounding hundreds of thousands of disciples were dumbfounded. Everyone stood up, while feeling a little confused, and stared fervently at the platform. I got to this place by accident and it's only natural for me to want to make a name for myself here. Wang Xian smiled faintly and turned to Xiao Xiao. Hey girl, you have disrupted my plan. A man from the real world. What are your intentions for joining our three immortal sects and entering the Yongchang world? Ao Shuan stared at Wang Xian while shouting again. His voice reverberated across the area with a radius of several tens of kilometers once again. This time, everyone in the vicinity had their doubts confirmed. A man from the real world? Senior brother Ao Shuan is saying that the Dragon King is from the real world. Really? The Dragon King from Dahong Immortal Sect is from the real world? Exclamations could be heard from below and the surrounding disciples were shocked. The elders from the three immortal sects flew towards the platform on the peak instantly. Elder Wang is from the real world? The great elder of Dahong Immortal Sect instantly questioned this harshly. Rumble. Several elders surrounded the platform in the peak completely. Their eyes were all fixed on Wang Xian. Wang Xian looked at the 50 to 60 budding realm experts around him. Gradually, a smirk appeared on his face. He clasped his right fist with his left palm and said plainly, Dragon King from the Dragon Sect of the Underworld. Nice to meet everyone. He's really from the real world. Disbelief beamed in the eyes of the great elder of Dahong Immortal Sect. The Dragon King was actually from the real world. A genius like him. A demon-like talent like him was from the world that was experiencing the age of Dharma decline. This was unbelievable for them. How could such a demon-like talent exist in the real world? You definitely have ill intentions for joining our Dahong Immortal Sect. Speak. What are your intentions? An elder from Dahong Immortal Sect questioned Wang Xian harshly. Regardless, his intentions wouldn't be kind. Let's just kill him. Kill him. Ao Shuan seconded this loudly. Dense killing intent was beaming in his eyes. That's right. Cripple his cultivation and interrogate him about his sinister plot. Several elders from Yongchang Immortal Sect remarked harshly as ruthlessness flashed across their eyes. Just kill him, an elder from Immortal Slaying Sect shouted. With the crowd cheering for the killing of the Dragon King, the elders from the three immortal sects felt compelled to take action but were hesitant as they stared at him. Feng family, Ao family, Dong family, Liang family. Hee. It seems like the warning I sent out to you guys for trying to assassinate me wasn't sufficient. Wang Xian looked across the elders that spoke and ruthlessness flashed in his eyes. Chapter 615, Wait while I kill them, 2. Those elders who wanted to speak had a drastic change in their expressions upon hearing what Wang Xian said. It's you. It's indeed you. Elder Liang, Elder Tong, and attendant Ao were killed by you, an elder bellowed with a darkened expression as he stared at Wang Xian with murderous eyes. Hee, since they dared to try to assassinate me, they should have been prepared to meet their doom. Wang Xian said with his icy eyes. All the surrounding elders were startled as they focused their attention on the several elders who had spoken just now. Those 15 budding realm experts of Yongchang City half a month ago were killed by Dragon King? An elder with fiery red hair in the center questioned Wang Xian with flickering radiance in his eyes. Half a month ago, 15 people sieged the surrounding region near my shop with an array in an attempt to kill me. Of course, I wouldn't let them live. I guess I have infringed on some people's interests. Wang Xian swept his gaze across several elders plainly with a faint smile on his face. We discovered something was wrong with you during our night investigation and got killed by you. Today, we'll avenge them. That elder of Dahong Immortal Sect remained unwavering as he spoke, fixing death stares on Wang Xian. In the past, they did not dare to spill the beans openly. Knowing that the Dragon King was an outsider, it put them completely at ease now. No matter how that outsider tried to explain himself, it would never win against their claims. After all, he came from the outside world. Let's just keep him under control now, an elder said coldly. Yes, that goes without saying. We should capture him first, an elder echoed. The rest of the elders nodded in agreement. No matter what, they had to control him first since he was from the real world. Let's cripple him and his cultivation to prevent troubles. A glimmer of excitement flashed in Ao Shuan's eyes with a ferocious look surfacing on his face. With a swift move, he darted to Wang Xian for a strike. Cripple him. Just as Ao Shuan struck, another 4 people lurched at Wang Xian immediately. Upon witnessing the scene, Xiao Xiao was slightly stunned. Her expression sank while she kept her silence. Sigh, I came to this place quietly, and I wanted to leave quietly too. You guys wanted to court your doom. Seeing the quintet was prepared to cripple him, coldness twinkled in Wang Xian's eyes. Kill them. When Wang Xian's emotionless voice resounded, he had already charged toward the quintet who was approaching 5 meters away. Wow! A crisp sound was heard as a golden radiance flashed, revealing 5 malevolent people. Dragon King, hee, go to hell. The excitement and malevolent expression filled the face of Ao Shuan as he pointed the long sword at Wang Xian. The other 4 wore cold faces. Not only had the Dragon King caused a massive loss to them, but he had also killed one top-notch expert from their clan. This feud was implacable. Now that they had this opportunity, they would not let him off. How is this possible? At this point in time, a supreme talent behind the quintet suddenly showed fright in his eyes. What? When the quintet exploded their daunting aura, they were stunned when they heard a voice behind them. Subsequently, they felt their energy dissipating at a terrifying speed. Traceless sword. Roving Sword stood before Wang Xian and withdrew his sword after spitting out the words. Ah, no! The 5 of them felt their energy dissipating within their bodies as they looked down in trepidation. They felt panic as they let out despair shrieks. Half of their bodies were slowly collapsing onto the ground. One sword move had divided them into 2. Sensing their vitality diminishing at a rapid speed, the quintet lost all hope. It's him. He's the subordinate of Dragon King. I didn't expect it to be him. He's still alive. Xiao Xiao watched this scene and quickly spun around with a pale-looking face. She stared at Roving Sword and spoke at the top of her lungs. What? Roving Sword is the subordinate of Dragon King? That's right, it's him. He's Dragon King's man, and he came from the real world too. Xiao Xiao said with a loud voice. Go to hell, Roving Sword. You actually came from the real world. To think that immortal slaying sect spent great efforts to cultivate you. You are so cruel. Die. How dare you strike? Take him down. If he dares to resist, kill him. Seeing that Roving Sword actually killed 4 elders and 1 supreme talent in one go, the 3 immortal sects became nervous as they exclaimed loudly. 60 budding realm experts immediately erupted their domineering auras from their bodies, locking onto Wang Xian and Roving Sword completely. Surrender immediately. The great elder of De Hong immortal sect stared at Wang Xian with a complicated look as he yelled in a low voice. Don't mess with me. Otherwise, I wouldn't mind a killing spree. Wang Xian swept his cold gaze across 60-odd budding realm experts as he replied coldly. Kill them. How dare he kill the people from Yongchang world? An elder let out a cold bellow directly. Strike. Kill. Some of the elders acted with no hesitation as they gathered their daunting energy and slashed at both Wang Xian and Roving Sword. Retreat. Some of the supreme talents on the stage were aghast as they ducked to one side with trepidation. When all the elders of 3 immortal sects struck together, it brought about a devastating scene. Gosh, that Dragon King actually came from the real world, and so did Roving Sword. Roving Sword is so strong that he can kill 4 elders in one move. Even Ao Shuwen too. He was directly slain. That's too fast. Dragon King was the one who killed those 15 budding realm experts on Yongchang Tower half a month ago. This is simply insane. They are from the real world, but isn't the real world experiencing the Age of Dharma decline? How come Dragon King and Roving Sword are so strong? Why? Over hundreds of thousands of disciples were shouting with disbelief below. They witnessed daunting oppression erupted from 60-odd elders, shrouding the entire area over a span of more than 10 kilometers. Kill the Dragon King. Let's go and kill him. Damn. At this time, all the experts were glowering at Wang Xian with murderous intent from below. They were the experts from a dozen families. In a brief moment, more than a dozen budding realm experts rose to the sky and lurched at Wang Xian with an immense amount of killing intent. Boom! Dozens of elders struck at the same time in the sky. Daunting inferno, water swords, and metallic swords were looming over Wang Xian. Instantly, all the domineering energy landed on the stage at the peak. The entire stage on the peak exploded under the domineering attack. The stage that was 1,000 meters tall was utterly destroyed. He's dead. I bet he's dead since more than dozens experts struck at the same time. Their power would be sufficient to bring down the sky. Back at the bottom, those disciples commented with shocked looks. Their eyes widened when they witnessed such terrifying attacks. It was terrifying for the Dragon King, and Roving Sword from the real world, to become the elders of De Hong Immortal Sect and the most invincible young generation of Yongchang. A pity that they were too brazen to kill our people. Even though we killed him, the strength of the Dragon King and Roving Sword were good enough to stun us. Their talents were beyond imagination. Good that they're dead. They made our talents pale in comparison within a short period. What a great talent! Chapter 616, Wait while I kill them, 3. Several hundreds of thousands of disciples mumbled to themselves while staring at the chaotic area. Dead! The 2 of them must be dead by now. The group of supreme talents hid themselves 1,000 meters above the ground. At this moment, Gu Wen's expression softened a little. He felt extremely embarrassed after being defeated by Roving Sword in 2 moves. However, fear gripped him when he saw Roving Sword killing 4 elders and Ao Shuwen with a single strike. He's too strong. What he just displayed was even stronger and more terrifying than when he fought with me. Will they die? Xiao Xiao stared intensely below her and mumbled, "The Dragon King is just like he was in the real world. Incomparably arrogant with no regard for anyone. That's the real world and we are in Yongchang world now. There's no need to fear the Dragon King. Even if he's a real dragon, we will subdue him here." Jin Jian stared below him and excitement flashed across his eyes. That's right. How dare they kill the people from Yongchang world? They deserve death. Gu Wen grinned hideously. Once the Dragon King and Roving Sword were dead, he would still be the strongest supreme talent in Yongchang world and the strongest disciple of the 3 immortal sects. Boom! However, a terrifying golden longsword slashed across from the center of the explosion. The golden longsword turned darker and extended to 1,000 meters as it slashed ahead. What? They aren't dead yet? Dodge! Dodge immediately! When the surrounding elders from the 3 immortal sects saw the sudden appearance of the terrifying longsword, they shouted out loud. No! However, the golden longsword slashed across in an instant. Next, several elders fell towards the ground without even having the time to scream out in pain. What a terrifying attack! He is at least at the half-step to immortal realm. Kill! Everyone attack him together! The elders of the 3 immortal sects were astonished and shouted loudly. I had no intention to kill anyone initially. However, with things as such, let's kill to our heart's content. Huh? Yongchang world? So what? Wang Xian looked across the elders who were charging towards him and broke into hysterical laughter. Kill! Roving Sword, who was standing beside him, moved. Dustless. Soundless. Breathless. Shadowless. Traceless. Merciless. Voices without any emotion reverberated as Roving Sword's long sword slashed across and penetrated the various terrifying attacks approaching him. That terrifying golden longsword pierced through the bodies of 6 elders frighteningly. What? Without making a sound, the 6 elders fell towards the ground. What? How can this be possible? An elder shouted in fear as his eyes widened in disbelief. 6 strikes and 6 elders had fallen. Merciless swordsmanship. He has made huge improvements in his merciless swordsmanship once again, the great elder of immortal slaying sect shouted with a horrified expression. Attack them together. Within a short period of time, Roving Sword had killed 10 elders. This had instilled fear in the hearts of all the elders of the 3 immortal sects. If they allowed him to continue attacking, their group wouldn't be sufficient for Roving Sword to kill. Moreover, what worried them the most was that the Dragon King hadn't made a move. If it was just as Xiao Xiao had mentioned, Roving Sword was just a subordinate of the Dragon King. This. The Supreme Talents could feel their scalps go numb from fear after seeing Roving Sword killing 4 elders with a single strike. This was followed closely by killing another 6 elders with 6 moves of merciless swordsmanship. Moreover, the attacks from their elders towards the Dragon King were easily stopped by the surrounding water energy. The strength of the 2 of them had shaken them to their cores. If they were to fight Wang Xian and Roving Sword, they would have been killed instantly. The group of Supreme Talents couldn't help but retreat further. Grand Pyro Technique. Sword Explosion. Merciless Sword. Terrifying energies were released from the elders of the 3 immortal sects. The next instant, terrifying battle techniques with catastrophic might were launched towards Wang Xian and Roving Sword. One could tell how horrifying the attacks from over 50 budding realm experts were easily from how the colors of the sky had changed. Even the surrounding atmosphere was exploding. Sword Alps. Seeing the attacks approaching him, Wang Xian smiled faintly and 5 long swords appeared around him. Every sword was a piece of level 12 spiritual equipment. As the long swords rotated, the illusory image of Sword Alps appeared and shrouded Wang Xian within. Sword Break. Roving Sword was unmoved by the attacks as he swung the long sword in his hand. Several broken swords appeared around him and met the terrifying energy of the approaching attacks. Boom! Explosions reverberated across. However, what embarrassed the crowd was that the blinding blue and golden light were still shining dazzlingly. Return Sword. Roving Sword shouted emotionlessly and long swords formed around him. Shit! They are too strong. Avoid his long swords, the great elder of the immortal slaying sect shouted. The expressions on the surrounding elders changed drastically. 2 people went against more than 60 elders and were able to kill 11. Is this even possible? Oh gosh! The elders are on the losing end. How can the 2 of them be so strong? How could 2 people from the world experiencing the age of Dharma decline be so strong? Hundreds of thousands of disciples were watching the terrifying battle in the air with shock and fear. Based on the information gathered by the Yongchang Immortal Sect, shouldn't the martial artists in the real world be trash? However, what was happening before them seemed to suggest that the martial artists from the real world were all ferocious and mighty beasts. Shit! At this instant, they saw Roving Sword slash and attack several elders with his long sword once again. Merciless swordsmanship was considered the strongest sword technique by the immortal slaying sect. Once it was used, there would be experts dying. How dare you kill in my Yongchang? Do you know your sins? Caw caw. Suddenly, a loud and clear voice reverberated from afar. A blinding ball of fire fell on those long swords directly, disintegrating them. Sect leader Hong Yan. Hong Yan Excellency. When the elders of the 3 immortal sects heard this voice, excitement beamed in their eyes as they greeted respectfully. A figure appeared before the eyes of everyone as though he had teleported in instantly. The illusory figure materialized gradually into a middle-aged man wearing a full suit of red armor. From him, one could sense a warming sensation. He was also emitting a faint glow and personified the holiness of a sun. He stared at Wang Xian and roving sword nonchalantly with spiritual equipment that resembled a sun above his head. Hong Yan. Immortal Realm Expert. Sect leader, these two outsiders killed over 10 elders. Half a month ago, they also killed 15 budding realm experts. An elder from Yongchang Immortal Sect glowered at Wang Xian with hatred and reported this information. Hong Yan Excellency, this man joined our immortal slaying sect with ill intentions. Can we kindly ask for your help to cleanse the scourge from our sect? An elder from immortal slaying sect bowed immediately and asked. For killing so many experts from our Yongchang world, their sins warrant their deaths. Hong Yan nodded his head nonchalantly and raised a finger. Chapter 617, Wait while I kill them, 4. Pyro Cell. The voice that seemed to have passed through the void sounded again as Hong Yan stretched out his finger and pointed at Wang Xian and roving sword. Pyro Cell. The moment his voice was heard, flames that shone like sunlight encircled Wang Xian and roving sword immediately. The flames slowly blended together, forming a 3-meter-tall flaming cage. There were no flames rising from the entire flaming cage as the domineering red and gold fire had already coagulated into a real solid cage. Pyro Cell. SSS. This is the usual means of an immortal. They saw the immortal trapping the duo with a cage that suddenly appeared out of nowhere. All the surrounding elders revealed a surprised look. Two tricky enemies were now easily trapped by the immortal excellency. This was the mightiness of an immortal, a daunting power. Hong Yan Excellency, I propose killing them right away. Since they killed so many of our men, we cannot let them off. Yes, kill them all. One by one, the elders exclaimed. They glowered at Wang Xian and roving sword with eyes full of killing intent. Someone from the age of Dharma decline has actually caused you people to be so passive. All of you should practice hard in the future because Yongchang is going to descend into the real world, said Hong Yan nonchalantly to them with a slight dissatisfying tone. Yes, Hong Yan Excellency is right. The elders hurriedly responded with respect. Hong Yan nodded impassively as he looked at Wang Xian and roving sword. Without any emotion in his voice, he said, Great talents. You are the unparalleled talents even in Yongchang world, but you should not kill people over here. Since you have killed someone over here, bear the consequences now. Hong Yan Excellency is going to strike. Phew, luckily our sect leader came here in time. Otherwise, who knows how many lives we were going to lose just to kill them off. The two of them were too wickedly strong. However, our sect leader will surely kill them off easily if he strikes. Upon hearing the words from Hong Yan Excellency, all the elders were slightly relieved. Phew, finally the Dragon King is going to be killed. No matter how demon-like the people from the real world are, they will get sanctioned for being insolent in Yongchang world. Hong Yan Excellency is simply too strong. A finger of his can kill the Dragon King and roving sword. Those disciples below who saw this also heaved a sigh of relief. The scene of roving sword killing their elders was too horrifying. As such, they let out a sigh of relief when the group of supreme talents saw that the immortal expert was here. Now, they had developed a fear for Dragon King and roving sword. Is that so? Wang Xian looked at the Hong Yan who overlooked them, ready to sentence them. Wang Xian curved his lips slightly. He was an immortal, the first one that he had met. His mouth quirked slightly as he stared at Hong Yan. I would really like to find out the consequences. Wang Xian said as he looked at roving sword, stop him while I kill a few more people. Yes, Dragon King. Roving sword respectfully nodded. You're already the meat on the plate. When an elder heard what Wang Xian said, he replied with coldness and disdain. However, his voice came to an abrupt halt. In the eyes of many, the pyro cell around Wang Xian collapsed straight away. The one that was trapping Roving Sword also crashed directly. Blue water energy and a golden metal virtual image appeared around them. Blue, the sacred color. Gold, the noble color. The colors that could compete with the sun slowly rose from their bodies. Feng, Ao, Dong, Liang family. Well, before I go, I'll destroy you guys first. Wang Xian startled everyone with his nonchalant voice. Upon seeing the collapsing pyro cell, solemnness swept across the calm-looking face of Hong Yan. Stop moving. Roving Sword held his long sword up and pointed it at Hong Yan. It was just a simple action, but what shocked everyone the most was all the long metallic swords in all directions turned to Hong Yan. Each of the swords contained fearsome energy. What's going on? An elder could not help but shiver as he stared at Wang Xian and Roving Sword in disbelief. Immortal realm, I didn't expect that you two could advance to the immortal realm. As soon as Hong Yan spoke, he looked stern. He stole a few glances at the long swords around him, and the sword radiance struck a slight terror in him. He looked at Wang Xian again, and the blue energy that was similar to sun rays glowing from behind him. The domineering power in it caused his expression to turn dreadful. Great waterfall water shockwave. Before anyone could react, the horrifying energy burst out from Wang Xian's body immediately. As a pivot in the center, the daunting water region spread out at a fascinating speed. Own! In an instant, the great waterfall water shockwave shrouded an area with a radius of 10 kilometers. All the people around, including the hundreds of thousands of disciples from the three immortal sects, were encompassed by the great waterfall water shockwave. No! Yet, the one comment that Hong Yan made struck horror in all the elders and disciples from the three immortal sects. As they watched the water region besieging them, fear welled up in their eyes. Great waterfall water shockwave. The high-class battle techniques that only those in the immortal class can release. He's an immortal. Roving Sword is also an immortal. He has locked onto Hong Yan Excellency. This. Everyone felt like they were being thrown off into a fugue state. Now that they were amid the water region, only Hong Yan Excellency was holding their ground. Yet, he was being locked onto by the surrounding longswords. Even the immortal class Hong Yan Excellency was locked onto, and dared not act recklessly. This struck fear into them. Great waterfall water shockwave. We're actually within the attack range of an immortal. Gosh, both of them are immortals. No wonder they could easily kill the elders. Since we're amid the water region of an immortal, it would be just too easy for him to kill us all. When the hundreds of thousands of disciples realized they had entered the water region, their bodies trembled even though the water did not attack them. But the oppression from an immortal caused a sense of worship to surge from within them. Their lives were completely in the hands of the Dragon King. A Dragon King who had come from the real world was an immortal class existence. Hong Yan peered around as he saw all the disciples from three major immortal sects were shrouded by great waterfall water shockwave. His face grimaced. Don't be reckless. Hong Yan stared at Wang Xian with a sullen look. Otherwise, you'll not walk out of Yongchang. Don't worry. I'll leave after I kill some people. Does the immortal of Yongchang world agree with this? As Wang Xian scorned, the 5 long swords beside him began to spin. He swept his gaze across everyone. I'm the Dragon King of the Dragon sect from the real world. Let me give you a piece of advice. When Yongchang world descends into the real world, keep a low profile and don't offend me. Feng family, Ao family, Dong family, Liang family, step forward to receive your judgment. Chapter 618, Return, 1. I'm the Dragon King of the Dragon sect from the real world. Let me give you a piece of advice. When Yongchang world descends into the real world, keep a low profile and don't offend me. Feng family, Ao family, Dong family, Liang family, step forward to receive your judgment. Wang Xian's voice reverberated across a radius of 10 kilometers as he stared coldly at the people before him. Rumble. At the same instant he spoke, a terrifying water shockwave appeared in the sky above the entire water region. That catastrophic energy sent chills down the spines of all disciples and elders from the three immortal sects. Hong Yen stared harshly at Wang Xian and Roving Sword. However, he was fearful of taking action. There were several hundreds of thousands of disciples around and most of them had not even reached the inborn realm. If he had taken action, their attacks would have caused the deaths of these hundreds of thousands of disciples. These disciples formed the foundation of Yongchang world and he was fearful of wrecking it. Around Wang Xian, everyone was extremely solemn and didn't dare to say a word. They stared at Wang Xian and Roving Sword with fear and trepidation. Feng family, Ao family, Dong family, Liang family. Step forward now. Wang Xian's emotionless voice sounded once again. He looked across the crowd and found that no one was responding. Boom! Wang Xian waved his arm and the terrifying water shockwave charged towards the elders of the Immortal Slaying Sect. No! The 20-odd elders of Immortal Slaying Sect were astonished and immediately fled with horror. Bam! Bam! Yet, that unmatched energy still fell on the bodies of 5 elders. Instant total annihilation. While they were in the region of the terrifying Great Waterfall water shockwave, their bodies couldn't withstand terrifying attacks from an immortal. If no one is stepping forward, I'll just have to kill everyone here. Wang Xian looked emotionlessly across the crowd and remarked coldly. No, no. Wang Xian's words had instilled greater fear into the crowd. Immortal. They were now facing an immortal. Moreover, there were 2 of them. If the 2 of them wished to kill them, they would be able to do so with just a wave of their hands. Those from these families step forward right now. Don't implicate others. An elder from Yongchang Immortal Sect spoke bitterly and softly. Looking at the circumstances, it was clear that the Dragon King would want to kill those from these families. Since they had offended the immortal, they had to pay the price. No. No. Don't kill us. Don't kill us. At this moment, those from the Feng family, Ao family and 10 other forces could feel the gazes from the surrounding crowd. Instantly, desperation filled their faces. They would have never expected that they would still be killed when Hong Yen Excellency was around. The members from these 10-odd forces were filled with despair. They had offended an immortal. The terrifying immortal. Boom! At this moment, the entire sky was dyed red. This created a stark contrast with the blue water region that spanned 10 kilometers. Above the water region, 2 figures stood like blinding suns in the air. Yao Yang, Eclipse. Hong Yen lifted his head and saw the 2 figures forming in the sky. He instantly shouted. 2 other immortals from Yongchang Immortal Sect had appeared. Yao Yang Excellency and Eclipse Excellency are here. 2 more immortals are here. We are saved. We are saved. We have 3 immortals on our side. The Dragon King and Roving Sword would definitely dare not make a move now. 3 immortals against 2. Things are going to get tough for the Dragon King and his subordinate. With other immortals from our Yongchang world here, even the Dragon King and Roving Sword will die in this place. The Dragon King and Roving Sword have to die. Seeing the appearance of the 2 immortals, those from the 10-odd families were beaming with excitement. The appearance of the 2 excellencies would mean that they wouldn't have to die. The 2 of them stood in the sky and stared right at Wang Xian and Roving Sword with solemn expressions. Are you the Dragon King? Let's end this here and not push it too far. A figure stared at Wang Xian and commented coldly. Huh. I'll stop right after I kill those I want to kill. Seeing the arrival of the 2 immortals, Wang Xian laughed out loud and waved his arm. Within the Great Waterfall water shockwave, terrifying water shockwaves were launched towards various people. A while ago, he could roughly verify who were from these 10-odd families through the eyes of the rest. What? No. No. Yao Yang Excellency. Eclipse Excellency. Save us. Save us. The disciples from these 10-odd families were filled with despair and they cried for help in horror. When the two figures saw the Dragon King continuing to attack, they frowned and were clearly discontented. They couldn't stop and wouldn't be able to. Around them, several hundreds of thousands of disciples watched the development with fear. Despite the arrival of two other immortals, the Dragon King still did what he wanted. This was undoubtedly equivalent to taunting their entire Yongchang world. It's been close to 2 months since I came into Yongchang. It's about time for me to return. Let's meet again in the real world. After the water shockwave, Wang Xian laughed out loud and looked across the three immortals. Let's go! He shouted at Roving Sword. The next instant, both of them turned illusory and flew towards the east at incredible speed. Remember my warning. When you enter the real world, keep a low profile. The Dragon King's voice reverberated through the sky. The great waterfall water shockwave dissipated. And the despondent atmosphere was gone. They have headed east. The spirit array in that direction is the weakest. It would appear that they wanted to head out. The attacks of the current spirit array would simply damage them severely and not kill them. The voices of the three immortals sounded and the three of them stared bitterly in the direction where Wang Xian and Roving Sword had fled in. The spirit array has been broken and they have left. After 10 seconds of silence, the fire sparks that were flickering in Hong Yan's eyes disappeared and he commented. Yao Yang and Eclipse remained silent and looked across the disciples below them. Swish swish swish. At this moment, figure after figure arrived at incredible speed. What's the matter? Why were there immortal-level attacks coming from here a while ago? Hong Yan, what happened? The other three figures stood in the sky, frowning as they asked these questions. There were two immortals from the outside world. One of them is called the Dragon King while the other was Roving Sword. They killed some of our people. Hong Yan remarked as his eyes flickered. The next moment, he gestured to Xiao Xiao. Uncle Yan. Xiao Xiao flew over and greeted him softly. Immortals from the real world? There are still immortals from the real world? The other three men were shocked. Greetings, uncles. Those two have likely advanced to the immortal realm in our world. Xiao Xiao bowed at the group of immortals and reported respectfully. Fear and respect filled her eyes. Advancing to the immortal realm in our world? The rest of the immortals were taken aback and had their attention fixed on Xiao Xiao. Yep. Xiao Xiao nodded her head before continuing, I saw him when I went to the real world. His name is Wang Xian and he should be 21 years old in the current year. He has risen in an exceptionally short period of time and established the sacred sect, Dragon Sect, in the real world. You're tuning into the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.